Cross early Saturday, and Egypt's Red Crescent says another 17 trucks are ready to go today. Well, meanwhile, a ground invasion by Israeli forces could come at any time. On Saturday, the Israeli military announced its bombardment of Hamas targets in Gaza will become more relentless than ever. Hundreds of armoured vehicles, along with thousands of Israeli troops, are now poised at the Gaza border waiting for orders. On Saturday, the IDF again dropped leaflets over northern Gaza, warning civilians to evacuate south or risk being considered a partner of Hamas. The Israeli military says it carried out an airstrike early today on a mosque in the West Bank in order to stop a, quote, imminent terrorist attack. The White House says President Biden has been kept informed on all the latest developments. On Saturday, a reporter asked if he was trying to get Israel to hold back on its offensive. Take a listen.
Are you encouraging the Israelis to delay invasion?
In light of increased agitation by Iran and its proxies, the US Defense Secretary announced on Saturday that the US will bring in more advanced missile defense systems to the region and put additional troops on notice for possible deployment. Well, CNN's Scott McLean is following all of these developments for us from London. Scott, let's start with this news that we're hearing about aid trucks at the Rafah border crossing. What more do you know?
Hannah, so the latest that we have from the border is that there are no movements at the moment of any trucks actually crossing the border. But as you said, the information that we have is from the Egyptian Red Crescent, which says that 17 trucks carrying food and other types of aid are on the border on standby to cross when or if they get the red light. We have seen for days and days now aid piling up in Egypt ready to cross into Gaza, but the forces that be to control that border have only let a limited amount actually in. And so there is a lot more than just those 17 trucks, which could, in theory, go into Gaza if they were given the green light. We saw 20 trucks entering yesterday, but the Palestinians say that, look, that is a drop in the bucket compared to what they need. They say that normally 500 trucks cross the border every single day to supply the essentials to the more than 2 million people who actually live in this enclave of the Palestinian territories. We have seen, according to the UN, some 60% of healthcare facilities in Gaza have shut because either there's been bombing nearby or because they simply don't have fuel to run their generators. And of the 20 trucks that we saw enter yesterday, Anna, they had food, they had water, they had medicine, but they did not carry any fuel. So whatever those hospital facilities have right now, at least for the time being, that's all they're going to get.
Scott, we know that the US is increasing its force posture, if you like, in the Middle East. Is it preparing for involvement, or is this supposed to act as a deterrent to Iran and Hezbollah?
Yeah, so the U.S. has been saying all the time, from the outset here, that what they have done thus far is meant to act as a deterrent. They don't want to get involved more than they already have. They have already moved 2 aircraft carriers to the eastern Mediterranean. They say that they shot down incoming fire coming from Yemen. They say, according to U.S. sources, from Iran-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen. They have also seen drone targeting of U.S. bases in Syria and Iraq. In one case, there were minor injuries, and now they're ramping up their presence, or at least their defenses in that area, according to the Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin. He says that there's going to be more Patriot batteries put in locations across the Middle East to protect U.S. forces. And he's also deploying something called the THAAD system. It stands for Terminal High Altitude Defense Battery. This is, according to the manufacturer, designed to intercept targets outside and inside of the atmosphere, which is what makes it unique. You can see there, each system costs $800 million, and according to the manufacturer, the U.S. Army only actually has 7 of those. So these are a precious commodity. And as you mentioned earlier, Anna, Lloyd Austin also saying that he is, quote, placing an additional number of forces on prepare to deploy orders as part of a prudent contingency planning to increase their readiness and ability to quickly respond as required.
It really has the potential to expand into a much larger conflict. Scott, Israel is warning Gazans to evacuate south, even though the IDF is actually hitting targets in the south. It has dropped flyers telling Gazans they'll be considered a partner for the terrorist organisation. Where are these people supposed to go, especially those, in hospital, being treated in hospital?
It's pretty remarkable, Anna, because as you said, the IDF has been telling people for since the outset of this conflict, really, to move south of the Wadi Gaza. So basically, the top 1/3 or so of the Gaza people are supposed to leave. This is where the majority of the population actually lives. The difficulty, though, is that we have been seeing even today strikes that are outside of that area. So even if people do manage to go south to other areas, they are far from safe. Deir al-Balah, for instance, is in central part of Gaza. It has seen virtually a daily strikes on apartment complexes and other sites on a pretty much daily basis. We saw leaflets being dropped on Thursday telling people to move south. We saw them again yesterday, but the ones dropped yesterday had different language on them, which stands out, and I'll read it to you. It says, "Urgent warning to the residents of the Gaza Strip. Your presence in north of Wadi Gaza puts your life in danger. Everyone who chose not to evacuate from the north of the Strip to the south of Wadi Gaza might be considered as a partner for the terrorist organization." So the IDF yesterday confirmed that they did in fact drop those leaflets, but it sort of walked back some of that language, saying that there was no intention to consider those who have not evacuated from the affected area of fighting as a member of a terrorist group, stressing that it does not target civilians intentionally. It says that the translation of these leaflets, which has spread online, was imprecise, it said, though it didn't elaborate on what was imprecise exactly. The translation that I just read you, by the way, that's CNN's translation, that's not anybody else's. The IDF spokesperson was asked yesterday what Israel would do in the event of this ground operation to try to prevent civilian casualties, and he repeated what Israel has been saying all along, that Hamas uses civilians as human shields, and then he said this, listen.
What we will be doing is first and foremost trying to distinguish between who is a combatant and who isn't, and we will target the combatants, the Hamas terrorists. We have tried to evacuate the civilians, and we still try to evacuate them from the northern part of Gaza, because that is where most of the combat will be. And we continue to warn civilians in various locations to stay clear of Hamas so that they don't endanger themselves.
And despite these leaflets being dropped by Israelis, we know that there are still civilians in the northern part of Gaza. Many of them, thousands of them, according to sources on the ground, are actually sheltering at some of the hospitals that remain open, figuring that those are still among the safest places to be at this point, Anna.
Scott McLean in London, we really appreciate the update. Thanks so much. Well, aid organisations are calling for unrestricted access to Gaza, saying in a joint statement from the UN that time is running out to help the thousands in need of medical assistance. CNN's Sama Abdelaziz shows us the dangers that come with this growing humanitarian crisis. And a warning, her report includes some disturbing video.
Hospitals in Gaza are crumbling. Everything is running out, from surgical equipment to medicine. And the tiniest lives are left hanging in the balance. We need power. We need access to clean water. This doctor says, without basic services, this will be a humanitarian catastrophe. Already, 7 hospitals and 21 primary healthcare facilities here are out of service, according to Palestinian officials, because of shortages. After intense diplomatic efforts, prayers of relief at the Rafah border crossing, as a trickle of aid was allowed in from Egypt. But the 20-truck convoy is only a drop in the ocean of need here, equivalent to just 3% of what entered this enclave daily prior to the conflict. More than 200 additional trucks of assistance remain stalled on the Egyptian side, according to the UN, and every hour costs lives. And so far, no civilians can leave the enclave. 10-year-old Palestinian American Aiden is among those trapped.
And we have no place to go. All the streets are bombed. They're literally gone. How are we supposed to go out? How? It's all closed.
Even if people are allowed out, it will be a limited number, most likely only those with foreign passports, sealing some 2 million others, half of them children, into this hellscape. But some refuse to go, even if they could, fearing Israel intends to bomb and besiege them out of their homes, never to return. Even as Mahmoud buries his children, he says he will keep fighting just to exist here. We will still be patient. As long as we are alive on this earth, we will be patient. He says, we will never leave this land. After the October 7th terror attacks, when Hamas killed more than 1,400 people in Israel in a brutal surprise incursion, Israel vowed to wipe out Hamas. But with hundreds of airstrikes pounding the densely populated enclave a day, innocent blood is being spilled. Innocent children were struck down while they were sleeping. This woman shouts, "What did they do? Did they carry weapons? These are innocent children who know nothing. Tell us, when will this end?" There are calls for a ceasefire to get civilians out of the war zone and allow more aid into Gaza, but the pleas fall on deaf ears so far. Israel is preparing for the next phase of its operations, a potential ground incursion that can only bring more suffering. Salma Abdulaziz, CNN, London.
Aid organisations are also warning that a shortage of basic supplies is pushing Gaza to the edge of catastrophe. Earlier, I spoke with Nabal Fasak, spokesperson with Palestine Red Crescent Society. She describes how desperate the situation is in the besieged enclave.
The situation in Gaza is just heartbreaking and overwhelming. It can't even be described. 2 million Palestinians now are stuck either in their homes or in schools or even at hospitals where they take shelter without having food, water, and even without electricity. All those Palestinian civilians are in urgent need for every basic humanitarian need, which is only food and water. And this is literally what is happening. People now are spending days without having a piece of bread. As for the hospitals, unfortunately, hospitals are overwhelmed. They are working on full capacity. They start running out of medicine and medical supplies, as well as fuel, which is needed to have electricity, because they are completely relying on backup generators to have electricity. On top of that, up to the moment, 7 hospitals went out of service, either due to the bombardment or because they ran out of supplies, as well as 24 medical centers went out of service. We have around 24 hospitals now under the threat of being bombed at any second due to the Israeli evacuation orders. One of them is our hospital, Al-Quds Hospital. We have received threats to evacuate Al-Quds Hospital immediately because it's going to be bombarded.
Well, if you'd like to help humanitarian relief efforts for Gaza and Israel, head to cnn.com/impact. You'll find a list of vetted organisations answering the call on the ground. That's cnn.com/impact. We're taking a short break. When we return, we'll show you how some Israelis are honouring their loved ones held hostage in Gaza and demanding their government do more to bring them home. And how Ukrainian special forces are now using unconventional methods to rattle Moscow.
Create a backyard that's out of this world. Right now, save $50 on the MS250 chainsaw. Real steel. Find yours.
Diabetes can serve up a lot of questions, like what is your glucose and can you have more carbs? Before you decide, with the Freestyle Libre 2 system, know your glucose level and where it's headed, no finger sticks needed. Manage your diabetes with more confidence and lower your A1C. The #1 doctor-prescribed CGM, Freestyle Libre 2. Try it for free at freestylelibre.us.
Mornings. Cough? Congestion?
I'm feeling better. All in one and done with new Mucinex Kickstart.
Headache?
Better now.
New Mucinex Kickstart gives all-in-one and done relief with a morning jolt of instant cooling sensation. It's comeback season.
Not flossing well? Then add the whoa of Listerine to your routine. New science shows Listerine is 5 times more effective than floss at reducing plaque above the gum line for a cleaner, healthier mouth. Listerine, feel the whoa.
I brought in Ensure Max Protein with 30 grams of protein.
Those who tried me felt more energy in just 2 weeks. Here, I'll take that.
Ensure Max Protein. 30 grams protein, 1 gram sugar, 25 vitamins and minerals, and nutrients for immune health.
It's true. Contacts are great until they get dry. So we created new BioTrue Hydration Boost for contacts for a boost of moisture that lasts up to 8 hours. So all kinds of contacts can stay comfortable throughout the day. And it's preservative-free. Stay BioTrue to your eyes.
We have like 40 years of data. That's incredibly valuable.
I don't know.
When do we introduce Sriracha?
Not soon enough.
Exactly. These are our sales, by product, by region, set against evolving demographics. You can actually see taste trends.
Since when can we do that?
Since we started working with BDO.
People who know BDO. You didn't live this strong, this long, to get put on the shelf like a porcelain doll. If you have postmenopausal osteoporosis and are at high risk for fracture, you can build new bone with Evenity. Ask your doctor if you can do more than just slowing down bone loss with Evenity. Want stronger bones? Then build new bone. Evenity can help in just 12 months. Evenity is proven to reduce spine fracture risk by 73%.
Evenity can increase risk of heart attack, stroke, or death from a cardiovascular problem. Do not take Evenity if you have low blood calcium or are allergic to it. Serious allergic reactions and low blood calcium have occurred. Tell your doctor about jawbone problems, as they have been reported with Evenity, or about pain in your hip, groin, or thigh, as unusual thigh bone fractures have occurred.
Don't let a break put you on a shelf. Talk to your doctor about building new bone with Evenity.
Dry skin is sensitive skin too, and it's natural. Treat it that way. Aveeno Daily Moisture with prebiotic oat is proven to moisturize dry skin all day. You'll love our formula for face too. Aveeno.
All the countries, where are you? You must understand. It's crazy. We are in hell. In hell. We are in hell. And we want our lovers back home. Now.
The incredibly distressed mother of an Israeli hostage pours out her anguish at a demonstration in Tel Aviv on Saturday night. She was one of several family members of hostages who joined the rally, along with hundreds of other Israelis. They called on the government to bring all the hostages home immediately and waved signs calling for a ceasefire. Israel's military now says 212 people are currently being held in Gaza 2 weeks after the deadly Hamas attack on Israel. On Friday night, many of those same families, including the woman you just saw, were at another ceremony in Tel Aviv, where a Shabbat dinner table was laid with 200 empty place settings, each one representing a hostage. The parents of 21-year-old Omer Shem Tov, who was taken from the Nova Music Festival on October 7th, spoke with our Caitlin Collins about their son and the last time they spoke with him.
From a phone call to another phone call, he sounded much more panic, much more hysteric, and even in one of the phone calls he said they're running away. They carry a lot of friends, but they start to run, so he lost some of his friends, and while he was running, he said that they are shooting all over, and he said that he even sees some dying people, and I love you.
I mean, you must have been so panicked to hear your 21-year-old son telling you it's not just rockets, there's gunfire and people are running and being killed.
Yes. It was like we could understand from his voice that this is something that we cannot understand even what is experienced over there.
He told me he was panicked, he was afraid. He said that they got into the car and they are trying to escape from there. my daughter told him send us a live location. He sent the live location, and then the phone was stuck. And then we started to see that the point is moving like not in the right way.
Not coming home.
Not coming home at all. It's moving to the board. And my daughter started to cry, and she told us, listen, it's not the way, it's not the way. I called him to say, Omer, it's not the way. And he didn't answer. The phone was ringing, and he didn't answer. And then we saw that he's getting into Gaza.
Behind the border.
He was behind the border.
And then in the evening, we got a video that was published by the Hamas that Omer is an hostage over there. We saw Omer handcuffed in a back of pickup.
He was handcuffed in a truck.
Yes, with his friend. They were alive. There was no blood or something on his clothes, and that was the only signal that we got from him.
And it's been almost 2 weeks. Tomorrow will have been 2 weeks. I mean, what have these 2 weeks been like for both of you?
We are not sleeping. We are not eating. All of the things that we are doing now is to shout all over the world our pain, that no mother in all over the world needs to feel like mother and father needs to feel like we are feeling now. Imagine that your son is going to a party, and the next day people kidnap him, and you don't know if he's eating, sleeping, if they are beating him. The basic thing of a mother is to protect her son, and I cannot protect my son now, and it's driving me crazy. And I'm talking not only for myself, I'm talking for a lot of families. You must understand that people were in the safe place at their home. They were sitting, eating breakfast, some of them were sleeping, and then this terrorist came in through their house and murdered and took them from their house, from the place that it's the most safe place. And they took him, babies, children, teenage mothers, fathers, grandmothers.
And he's 21, but he's your baby. I mean, what's he like? What's his personality? What is he? You were saying he kisses you 3 times on the cheeks all the time.
Yeah, he's an amazing guy. He's a party guy. He's by himself. He's a DJ, and he likes very much all these kind of music festivals. So that's Omer. Very, very happy guy. Very happy guy.
Funny.
Very.
We call him.
So cute.
We call him Sunshine because, like the sunshine, everybody wants to be next to him.
The last time Amir's family saw him was at Shabbat dinner 2 weeks ago. He was there like he always is. He's always the life of the party, as they talked about, his big personality. And that night was the night that he went to the Nova Music Festival. The next time his parents heard from him was in a series of panicked phone calls the next day, when they realized that the festival he was at was being attacked by Hamas. The ceremony tonight, in this huge table that you see, is for all the families whose loved ones are being held hostage tonight whose loved ones won't be at Shabbat dinner tonight. And Omer's family is hoping that he will be back at their Shabbat dinner, at their table, very soon. Can you show me the video that you were showing me a moment ago?
Amazing.
And that was a picture of your family.
Yes.
How many times have you watched that video?
Wow.
Oh my God.
I saw it, you know, at the beginning when Dana posted, I saw it, I don't know, maybe 100 times, and each time I'm crying, and I get very emotional. Even now when I see it, I get very emotional. And also the songs say, you are going to get out from this.
Don't be afraid from the fear.
Yes, you're going to get out from it.
If you could talk to him right now, what would you say to him?
Come back, enough. You did enough troubles. Come back.
What about you, Mom?
That I love him, that I miss him, that I want every day when he is going, he is coming to me, he's hugging me, telling me, Mom, I love you. He's kissing me 3 times and he's going. So I want him back. I want
to hug him. I want to hug him, to smell him. That's what I want very much, to hug him and smell him.
It must have been a relief to hear what the IDF said today, that they do believe most of the hostages are still alive.
You know, for us, it's give maybe some light, but until we don't see them.
I want to say something about that. My son have asthma. He cannot breathe well, and I also. Every day when I'm waking up and I cannot breathe, I'm taking my inhaler, and I'm thinking about Omer, that he's there and he don't, he's whatever you call it, and it's the minimum thing that the humanitarian thing that they need to do. First of all,
it's unbelievable.
מה תביא את הרוח, מה ימיס את הדממה, לא יש סיבות לכל דבר, יש חלום שלא נגמר, בסוף הדרך עוד תהיה מאושר, בסוף הדרך עוד תהיה מאושר.
The Whole Story with Anderson Cooper, tonight at 10 on CNN. The Situation Room with Wolf Blitzer, weekdays at 6 on CNN.
The right age for Neutrogena retinol? That's whenever you want it to be. It has germ-proven retinol that targets vital cell turnover, even skin tone, and smooths fine lines, with visible results in just 1 week. Neutrogena retinol.
Stay 2 nights and get 5,000 bonus points. Book direct at bestwestern.com.
I have type 2 diabetes, but I manage it well. It's a little pill with a big story to tell. I take once daily Jardiance. At each day start, as time went on, it was easy to see. I'm lowering my A1C.
Jardiance works 24/7 in your body to flush out some sugar. And for adults with type 2 diabetes and known heart disease, Jardiance can lower the risk of cardiovascular death too. Jardiance may cause serious side effects including ketoacidosis that may be fatal, dehydration that can lead to a sudden worsening of kidney function, and genital yeast or urinary tract infections. A rare life-threatening bacterial infection in the skin of the perineum could occur. Stop taking Jardiance and call your doctor right away if you have symptoms of this infection, ketoacidosis, or an allergic reaction, and don't take it if you're on dialysis. Taking Jardiance with the sulfonylurea or insulin may cause low blood sugar.
Jardiance is a really swell, the little pill with the big story to tell.
Start your day with Nature Made, the #1 pharmacist-recommended vitamin and supplement brand.
Not flossing well? Then add the whoa of Listerine to your routine. New science shows Listerine is 5 times more effective than floss at reducing plaque above the gum line for a cleaner, healthier mouth. Listerine, feel the whoa.
The Navy League of Canada is welcoming new cadets to join our youth program for 9 to 12-year-olds. Navy League cadets discover the thrill of the sea and the joy of lifelong friendships. Develop leadership skills, discipline, and resilience that will shape their future. Visit our website or call us today to learn about the exciting journey of Navy League cadets and the oceans of opportunities. Ask a parent before going online. The Navy League of Canada, empowering the leaders of tomorrow.
Hold it!
Imagine a world with no drama.
I haven't signed Jody's card yet.
At 4imprint, finding the promotional products you need to create a memorable moment is an easy mission. Our expert team will take care of every detail to make your success a certainty. Take the drama out of ordering promotional products at 4imprint.com.
4imprint, for certain. I'm Kayla Tausche at the White House, and this is CNN. Welcome back. Let's get back to our continuing coverage of the war in Israel. Egypt's Red Crescent says another small convoy of trucks with food and medicine is preparing to cross from Egypt into Gaza. 20 trucks were allowed to cross early Saturday, and Egypt's Red Crescent says another 17 trucks are ready to go today. Well, meanwhile, the Israel Defense Forces say they are increasing and intensifying airstrikes in Gaza, a clear sign that it's paving the way for a ground incursion of Gaza. No timeline has been announced, but Israeli officials indicate it will be soon. On Saturday, the IDF again dropped leaflets over northern Gaza, warning civilians to evacuate south or risk being considered a partner of Hamas. While the war rages on in Israel, so does Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Ukrainian officials say Russian missiles killed at least 6 people on Saturday in the Kharkiv region. Another 16 were injured. According to the regional prosecutor's office, Russian forces fired 2 missiles at a building belonging to a logistics company with employees inside. Search and rescue operations are underway, and the victims are still being identified. Well, here you can see firefighters putting out flames at food depots in Donetsk. The mayor says 4 people died after shelling hit the city. Russian officials are speaking out about the Israel-Hamas war. Sergei Lavrov, Russia's foreign minister, is warning that the situation in Gaza could lead to a regional crisis.
As for the Gaza Strip, the risk of this crisis escalating into a regional conflict is quite serious. I have already mentioned that the United States vetoed a resolution that called for a stop to any hostilities and to begin to resolve humanitarian issues. Therefore, the United States has apparently showed that it is not ready to call for a truce, a ceasefire. And if this is so, then they will probably believe the conflict may grow.
Well, for more, let's bring in Jill Doherty. She's an adjunct professor at Georgetown University, a CNN contributor, and of course, former CNN Moscow bureau chief. Jill, great to have you with us. You believe that Israel and Ukraine wars are linked. Explain to us how.
Well, there are a lot of, I think, complex interconnections, kind of cross currents. But I would say if you look at the immediate reaction that Vladimir Putin had to the attack back on the 7th of October, he blamed the United States. That was the primary thing. He did not go into details like, was this terrorism? He did not mention Hamas specifically. Instead, he said the United States is to blame. Why? Because the United States is monopolizing, as he put it, the Mideast peace process in general, excluding Russia from being part of that. And then Putin would argue American diplomacy failed. So it's essentially America's fault. And if you can see the same kind of logic, if that's what you want to call it, or messaging in what's happening in Ukraine. Putin also would say that the United States, the West, are behind what's happening in Ukraine. And there are many other connections. You know, I just mentioned one, that you're hearing kind of the same messaging about the developing world, the global South. This is something that back in the old Soviet days, the Soviet Union took the side of revolutionary movements. And you could say Hamas, Hezbollah, etc. Russia has better relations with them, even to this day. So Russia has now picked that up as a revived message, let's say, and says, developing world, we're on your side. We're on the side against the elites in the West, etc. So, I mean, there are many more cross currents we could talk about. In fact, Iran, definitely. Look at Iran. Better relationship between Russia and Iran. And guess what? Iran is supplying drones to be used in Ukraine. So, many connections.
Yeah. I want to ask you about that, because how does Moscow's relationship with Israel, how is it affected by, his stance, Putin's stance, considering, as you say, Russia's ties to Iran that is supplying drones to Moscow for its war in Ukraine?
Yeah, it's kind of another complex situation, because actually Russia has, over the years, most recently, improved relations with Israel. But at the same time, when you look at Vladimir Putin's comments about the airstrikes by the Israelis on Gaza, he actually made a connection between that and the Leningrad blockade. And remember, Leningrad was where he was born, in the Soviet Union, now St. Petersburg, and he actually made that connection, the Nazi blockade of Leningrad. So I think what he's again trying to do is not really directly take sides here, blame it on the United States, and say we should have a peace or some type of ceasefire. But it's complicated for them too, I think.
Jill, you would have to assume that Putin is going to capitalize on this moment, while the US and the world is distracted on events in the Middle East. Do you believe that he will up the ante in Ukraine and increase attacks?
Upping the ante in Ukraine is more difficult because he has to have the firepower behind it. Now, the Russians have been making some more incursions, but I don't think you can say that he can turn the tide at all right now. That's, Ukraine, big picture, seems to be kind of stuck in this stasis, at least for the while. And you could argue, and some people actually do, that maybe that works for Putin because, Ukraine kind of is there, but now there's the danger that it's being forgotten because of what is happening in the Middle East. And that works for Putin because he can kind of make similar arguments about, airstrikes and in a way justify the airstrikes that he is making in Ukraine. So I think what you also have to look at on a really quickly is the situation in the United States with political chaos in the Congress. There's no question. Biden is asking for $61.4 billion more for Ukraine, and it can't get through because the United States doesn't have a speaker right now. And that is another complication.
It certainly is a mess. Jill Doherty, we appreciate the context. Great to see you. Thank you. Well, meanwhile, Ukrainian special forces are launching raids on Russian-occupied Crimea. They're using unconventional methods in hopes of throwing Moscow off its guard and in order to boost morale during Ukraine's slowed counter-offensive. Fred Pleitgen shows us how.
A brazen attack from the sea. Ukrainian forces using jet skis to land in Russian-occupied Crimea. The fighter speaking goes by the call sign musician. He tells me the operation was successful, but tough. While we were landing, the the sea was stormy, he says. The waves were up to 2 meters high, plus Russian warships were patrolling, the Raptors. The Ukrainians say they also managed to destroy Russian military gear before racing off across the Black Sea, using larger boats to carry fuel for the jet skis on the long journey back to Ukrainian-held territory. Musician says these missions are militarily essential. It helps our forces in the trenches, he says. We distract the enemy's attention towards us, and the enemy is forced to relocate their personnel and vehicles to the Crimean seaside. Ukraine has started a major campaign against Russian military targets in and around Crimea, hitting the HQ of Moscow's Black Sea Fleet, damaging a submarine and a Russian landing ship, as well as hitting an airbase. The Ukrainians use drones and cruise missiles for some of the attacks, but rely on a network of undercover partisan groups inside Crimea for information and targeting. One of the groups agreed to answer our questions, but only in writing for security reasons. We constantly monitor all military facilities on the territory of the Crimean Autonomous Region with the help of our agents and residents of Crimea, who constantly inform us, the Atesh Group writes. A wide and developed system of agents allows you to make a choice. One of the key targets Ukraine has hit several times, the Kerch Bridge linking occupied Crimea to the Russian mainland. The attacks have led to severe disruptions, Russian leader Vladimir Putin vowing revenge. There will definitely be a response from Russia, he said. The Ministry of Defense is preparing proposals. For the Ukrainians, missions like these are also psychologically important, one of the planners of the jet ski raid tells me. We are fighting a trench war on the front lines, and the armed forces' success is not so obvious, he says. And special operations of this kind in the rear or in the sea, they inspire and give energy to keep fighting. And the fighters in the Bratstva unit say their next infiltrations are already in the works, but they won't say when, where, or how. For Plotkin, CNN, Kiev.
US House Republicans will attempt to choose a speaker once again this week, but it's unclear whether any candidate can get the votes needed to secure the gavel. That story and more after the break.
The new CNN Prime Time is where the truth shines. The day's biggest stories. The night's most essential reporting. This is the new CNN Prime Time. Weeknights starting at 7 on CNN.
Dry skin is sensitive skin too, and it's natural. Treat it that way with Aveeno Daily Moisture. Formulated with nourishing prebiotic oat. It's clinically proven to moisturize dry skin for 24 hours. Aveeno.
Stars Play in Abu Dhabi is the region's leading streaming service that brings you the magic of films and the excitement of sports to your favorite device, be it television or your mobile phone. With a business like ours, we need a range of talent, from technology as well as creative. We found Abu Dhabi to be our hub for accessing that type of talent.
I'll deal with this tomorrow. You won't. It's ripe in here.
My eyes are watering.
I'm a busy man. Look how crusty this is.
Shameful.
It's just too much.
Not with this.
I'm tired.
Tired can tackle any pile.
Not a tackle pun?
Just clean the pile, Ron.
Okay.
This too.
That was easy.
When stains and odors pile up, it's got to be Tide. Not flossing well? Then add the whoa of Listerine to your routine. New science shows Listerine is 5 times more effective than floss at reducing plaque above the gum line for a cleaner, healthier mouth. Listerine, feel the whoa.
Here's an amazing fact. 1 in 3 African American blood donors is a match for a person living with sickle cell disease. Could be me, could be you. We can help save lives. Visit redcrossblood.org/ourblood to make your appointment to donate today.
Are you certain about the entertainment? You kind of nailed it. Are you for imprint certain?
Are you ready to rock?
I got this.
Certainty matters. For promotional products everyone will love delivered on time, visit forimprint.com.
For imprint, for certain.
When I came back to the States injured, I felt alone. It's like we don't really have a need for you now. You're useless. If it hadn't been for Wounded Warrior Project, honestly don't know if I would be here. I got my family back again. We all felt the connection, you know, like that brother and sisterhood.
US House Republicans who want to be the next House Speaker have a little more than 6 hours to declare themselves. The deadline for filing is Sunday at noon Eastern Time. There will be a leadership forum Monday where candidates will make their case to the party, followed by a closed-door caucus vote on Tuesday. Majority Whip Tom Emmer is the latest of several Republicans to declare an interest, but it's unclear whether anyone can get the 217 votes needed to secure the gavel. On Friday, Kevin McCarthy slammed the bloc of hardcore conservatives who ousted him nearly 3 weeks ago.
The Crazy Eights, led by Gates, the amount of damage they have done to this party and to this country is insurmountable. We are in a very bad position as a party, one that has won the majority, one that America has trusted us with, that a simple 8 people have put us in this place.
Well, polls open just about 2 hours from now in Argentina's presidential election. Ballots have been shipped around the country, which is suffering from inflation of more than 130%. The latest polling shows a tight 3-way race that's likely to head to a runoff in November. Some voters say they won't make up their mind until they get to the ballot box. Libertarian outsider Javier Milei is seen as the frontrunner. He has pledged to take a metaphorical chainsaw to the status quo. The sports world is in mourning. It's mourning the loss of Manchester United's Sir Bobby Charlton. The team called him one of the greatest and most beloved players in the history of the club. He scored 249 goals in 17 seasons with the team. He also helped England win the World Cup in 1966. In a statement, the team wrote, "Sir Bobby was a hero to millions, not just in Manchester or the United Kingdom, but wherever football is played around the world." Bobby Charlton was 86 years old. Many Israeli Americans say they feel helpless watching from the US as the war against Hamas rages on. What some are doing to help their fellow countrymen? Next on CNN.
Not flossing well? Then add the whoa of Listerine to your routine. New science shows Listerine is 5 times more effective than floss at reducing plaque above the gum line for a cleaner, healthier mouth. Listerine, feel the whoa.
I wish for the amazing new iPhone 15 Pro. Sean.
Do you mean this one? The one with titanium? It's so light, don't touch it. Maybe stealing wishes from the birthday boy is not your best plan. Switch to Verizon and get iPhone 15 Pro on them.
What?
Yep, and on an amazing network.
And I don't have to ruin any more birthday parties.
Yeah, that ship has sailed. Let's go get you that iPhone. Here we go. Come on now.
Get iPhone 15 Pro, Apple TV 4K, and 6 months of Apple One. All 3 on us. Only on Verizon.
Okay, everyone. Our mission is to provide complete balanced nutrition for strength and energy.
Ensure with 27 vitamins and minerals, nutrients for immune health, and Ensure Complete with 30 grams of protein.
With Gold Bond, you can age on your own terms. Retinol Overnight means the smoothing benefits of retinol are now for your whole body. Plus, fast-working crate corrector diminishes wrinkled skin in just 2 days. Gold Bond, champion your skin. Dry skin is sensitive skin too, and it's natural. Treat it that way. Aveeno Daily Moisture with prebiotic oat is proven to moisturize dry skin all day. You'll love our formula for face too. Aveeno.
The virus that causes shingles is sleeping in 99% of people over 50. It's lying dormant, waiting, and could reactivate. Shingles strikes as a painful, blistering rash that can last for weeks, and it could wake at any time. Think you are not at risk for shingles? It's time to wake up, because shingles could wake up in you. If you're over 50, talk to your doctor or pharmacist about shingles prevention.
With thyroid eye disease, I hid from the camera, and I wanted to hide from the world. For years, I thought my TED was beyond help. But then, I I asked my doctor about Tepezza.
Tepezza is the only medicine that treats TED at the source, not just the symptoms. In a clinical study, more than 8 out of 10 patients taking Tepezza had less eye bulging. Tepezza is an infusion and may cause infusion reactions. Tell your doctor right away if you experience high blood pressure, fast heartbeat, shortness of breath, or muscle pain. Before treatment, tell your doctor if you have diabetes, IBD, or are pregnant or planning to become pregnant. Tepezza may raise blood sugar and may worsen IBD. Tepezza may cause severe hearing problems, which may be permanent.
Now, I'm ready to be seen again.
Visit mytepezza.com to find a TED eye specialist and to see Bridget's before and after photos.
It's mine. You okay?
Yeah. You okay?
We're fine. My serve.
Then maybe we should stop.
This Pinewood pickleball champ stops for no one.
Whoa. We got our melons checked. She had a concussion.
Admitting I was wrong is worse than losing at pickleball.
Saving your brain is a definite win.
Don't mess with your melon.
If you hit it, get it checked.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Page Publishing. Want to publish a book? We'll review your manuscript for free.
If you've written a book, Page Publishing can help you through the process. We cut through the confusion of the publishing world to make it easy for you.
Call 800-563-0741.
In Spain, thousands demonstrated in Barcelona and Madrid to show their support for Palestinians amid the Israel-Hamas war. With protesters marching and shouting in Spanish, Gaza is bleeding out and the world is watching. And in Tunisia, demonstrators waved Palestinian flags. They shouted that the world needs to, quote, wake up, stand up, speak up, and stop the genocide. Police in London say more than 100,000 people marched through the city to the Prime Minister's residence. They waved the Palestinian flag and shouted, "Free Palestine." The US has been seeing rallies in support of the Palestinian people as Israel stages more airstrikes and prepares for a ground incursion. In New York, about 1,000 demonstrators gathered in Brooklyn on Saturday. They called, for a ceasefire in Gaza. The message was the same in Washington, D.C., where the National March for Gaza took place Saturday. The American Muslims for Palestine and the U.S. Council of Muslim Organizations hosted the events. Well, many Israeli Americans are working to collect humanitarian supplies. Camilla Bernal has more on what people in the U.S. are doing to help both Israel and Gaza.
They're focused on raising as much money as possible, collecting as many supplies as possible, but also focused on mental health resources and fighting misinformation. A lot of these Israeli Americans began to watch and see what was going on in Israel and say they were shocked, they were heartbroken, and also felt helpless in a way. Many of them that were maybe IDF members were able to travel back to Israel, but others say that it's just better to stay here and do everything they can to help from the U.S. I talked to the organization Bulletproof Israel, and they said in the beginning they were in need of tactical gear, bulletproof vests, anything that they could collect to help the military, but they now say they're also very focused on medical supplies, the basics. They've been able to ship from LA, from New York, from Miami, and they will continue to do so over the next couple of days. They say they want to send as much help as possible. Here is the CEO of Bulletproof Israel.
For me, it wouldn't make sense to go back, but knowing so many people in Israel and knowing what they're going through, what my goal is just to do everything that I can to help them out. Everything. It doesn't mean, there's no limit to what I would do. It doesn't matter. They're there and they're fighting for us and they're trying to get my family out.
And Leon told me 2 members of his family have been kidnapped, which is part of the reason why he's doing everything he can to help from the U.S. Now, we also reached out to organizations helping Palestinians in Gaza, and what they've told us is that it is impossible for them to send supplies. So instead, they are extremely focused on trying to raise as much money as possible. But again, it's Americans who feel like they need to do something from the U.S. to then send that help. Camila Bernal, CNN, Los Angeles.
If you'd like to help humanitarian relief efforts for Gaza and Israel, head to cnn.com/impact. You'll find a list of vetted organizations answering the call on the ground. That's cnn.com/impact. And before we go, the Premier League honoured those impacted by the Israel-Hamas conflict. A moment of silence was observed at both the Chelsea vs Arsenal and Manchester City vs Brighton matches. Players, managers and officials will also wear black armbands for the next round of matches. Well, that wraps up this hour of CNN Newsroom. I'm Anna Corrin in Hong Kong. Thank you for your company. CNN This Morning is next with more of our ongoing coverage of Israel at war.
The whole story with Anderson Cooper, tonight at 10 on CNN. The Situation Room with Wolf Blitzer, weekdays at 6 on CNN.
The right age for Neutrogena retinol?
That's whenever you want it to be.
It has germ-proven retinol
That targets vital cell turnover, even skin tone,
and smooths fine lines with visible results in just 1 week. Neutrogena retinol.
Life, diabetes. Each day is a unique blend of going, doing, and living. Lucerna Protein Smart with 30 grams of protein to help keep you moving. Uniquely designed with Carb Steady to help manage blood sugar response. Lucerna, bring on the day.
I suffer with psoriatic arthritis and psoriasis. I was on a journey for a really long time to find some relief. Cosentix works for me.
Cosentix helps real people get real relief from the symptoms of psoriatic arthritis or psoriasis, serious allergic reactions, severe skin reactions that look like eczema, and an increased risk of infections, some fatal, have occurred. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, had a vaccine or plan to, or if IBD symptoms develop or worsen.
I move so much better because of Cosentix.
Ask your rheumatologist about Cosentix.
Stanley Steamer is proud to clean over 1 million homes across America every year. With custom-made vans and cleaning equipment, our professional cleaning technicians have the knowledge and skills to get your home cleaner and healthier. Get the best for your home. Schedule a cleaning with your local Stanley Steamer today.
Not flossing well? Then add the whoa of Listerine to your routine. New science shows Listerine is 5 times more effective than floss at reducing plaque above the gum line for a cleaner, healthier mouth. Listerine, feel the whoa.
Having diabetes can raise a lot of questions, like my morning ride. Will it help lower my glucose? With the Freestyle Libre 2 system, you can know where your glucose level is and where it's headed without finger sticks. Know what activities work for you. Manage your diabetes with more confidence and lower your A1C. Ask your doctor about the Freestyle Libre 2 system. It's covered by Medicare for those who qualify. Visit freestylelibre.us/Medicare to learn more.
Every year, Make a Change Canada adds more faces to our career success stories. We've helped thousands of people with barriers find a meaningful direction with our career assistance and IT skills training. When you give to Make a Change Canada, you're helping Canadians from all over to realize their full potential. To learn more and to donate, visit makeachangecanada.com and help create thousands more Canadian career success stories. Make a Change Canada is an accredited Canadian charitable organization.
You can't buy a best friend. You can love them, pet them, care for them, whether they want you to or not. You can take a picture, you can jump, yell, you can fly to the moon, travel the world, or just stay in bed. You can't buy a best friend like that, but you can adopt one. 'Cause we are connected.
I'm Eva McKen in Washington, and this is CNN.
Good morning. morning, everyone, and welcome to CNN This Morning. It is Sunday, October 22nd. I'm Amara Walker.
I'm Victor Blackwell. Thank you for joining us. We begin with the expected Israeli ground offensive into Gaza. On Saturday, the Israeli military said it would increase airstrikes on Hamas targets ahead of any ground incursion. Thousands of Israeli troops and hundreds of armored vehicles are at the Gaza border, ready to strike Hamas. Israel Defense Forces dropped flyers into northern Gaza warning civilians to once again evacuate to the south, or they might be considered a partner for the terrorist organization.
As fighting increases at Israel's northern border with Lebanon, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said the U.S. military is taking steps to increase its readiness in the region, including deploying additional missile defense systems to the Middle East and placing American troops on standby to deploy at a moment's notice. Meanwhile, Egypt's Red Crescent says 17 aid trucks carrying food and medicine are standing ready to enter Gaza through the Rafah border crossing, but did not provide further details on when those trucks might enter. Aid workers inside Gaza are calling for more aid to be allowed through, saying the 20 trucks that crossed through Rafah on Saturday are just not enough. CNN's Scott McLean is joining us now from London. Good morning, Scott. We are hearing that there are more aid trucks ready to cross into Gaza at the Rafah border crossing. What more do you know?
Yeah, this might, Amara, be a very small shred of good news in a part of the world that frankly has not had very much lately. So we have been told by the Egyptian Red Crescent that there are 17 trucks at the border who've been told to get ready to actually cross it. They are carrying food and aid supplies. There's no indication that they're actually carrying fuel. And as you said, the Palestinians have said that even the 20 trucks which were able to get inside of Gaza yesterday through the Rafah border crossing in Egypt, that is just a tiny fraction of what the Palestinians need. They say that there are some 500 trucks that normally cross into Gaza every single day, because we're talking about supplying the essentials for more than 200 people who actually live there. The other difficulty is that the UN says that some 60% of the healthcare facilities inside of Gaza have closed down, either because of damage from bombing nearby or because they simply do not have enough fuel. And there was no indication yesterday that any of those 20 trucks were carrying fuel. We know that many of them were carrying medical supplies, which is desperately needed, food and water, but again, fuel. So whatever the hospitals have right now in terms of fuel for their generators, and some aid groups like Doctors Without Borders say that the supplies are running very low, but whatever they have right now, all indications are that that's all they're going to get, at least for the time being.
Scott, tell us about these flyers that the IDF dropped into Gaza.
Yeah, so this is something that we've seen over the last couple of weeks, leaflets being dropped in the northern part of Gaza. There were leaflets dropped on Thursday telling people to go south of this sort of arbitrary line that they've drawn at the Wadi Gaza. So about 1/3, almost 1/2 of Gaza, where a good chunk of the population lives, is being told to move south. In this case, on Saturday, these leaflets, the wording on them was a little bit different, and I'll read it to you verbatim. It says, "Urgent warning to the residents of Gaza Strip. Your presence in north of Wadi Gaza puts your life in danger. Everyone who chose not to evacuate from the north of the Strip to the south of Wadi Gaza might be considered as a partner for the terrorist organization." That language obviously is concerning. The IDF was asked about this by CNN. It confirmed that it did in fact drop those leaflets, but it sort of walked back the wording on it, saying that there was no intention to consider those who have not evacuated from the affected area of fighting as a member of the terrorist group. Again, going on to stress that it does not intentionally target civilians. It also said that the translation that it says is circulating online was imprecise, though it didn't clarify what precisely that was. The translation that I just read you, by the way, that is CNN's translation of this. And of course, you also have to consider that this line that Israel has drawn, telling people to evacuate south of it, that doesn't mean that there are no airstrikes happening there. In fact, there are many of them, some near the Rafah border crossing, in fact, and a lot in the Deir al-Balah city, which is in the central part of Gaza, where we are seeing some really disturbing images of hospital morgues being filled up already, and some 5 strikes just this morning, or overnight and this morning, being quite close to that hospital as well. And in the northern part of Gaza, Victor and Amara, we also know that at least one hospital, but likely more, there are people sheltering in those places, people who for whatever reason, have declined to go further south because they figure that hospitals are still their safest bet of places that won't be targeted by Israel.
And Scott, we're also getting new information and details about the Al-Ali hospital bombing in Gaza City. What are we learning about the cause of that explosion?
Yeah, so this was an analysis done by a team here at CNN who looked at dozens of videos from social media, live footage that was broadcast on other outlets, and also shot by our own team or our own photographer on the ground. In the aftermath, it also spoke to weapons and explosives experts to try to decipher what may have happened. And the conclusion that they've drawn, though not a conclusive one, is that the most likely scenario is that this was a rocket that originated from Gaza that broke up in midair, and then the rest of it fell on that hospital complex site and then exploded. And they based this on a number of things, but one of the key pieces of evidence is actually live footage that was broadcast on Al Jazeera Arabic at around the time, where you see this flash in the sky, and then you see another flash on the ground, presumably the hospital site. And then also they look at the size of the crater based on the pictures that we have. And experts say that, look, the size of the crater is far too small to be from a bomb that would have been dropped from an aircraft. But again, they stress that this is not conclusive. Obviously, the U.S. has drawn the same conclusion, and no one can be sure without getting on the site and examining shrapnel that may have been found. It's also important to point out that, look, many in the Muslim world have already drawn their own conclusions. I think the Jordanian foreign minister perhaps summarized it best last week when he said, look, good luck finding anyone in the Middle East who's going to believe that Israel didn't do this, even if they actually didn't do it, because Israel, he says, has been known to change their story in the past. He points to the example of Shireen Abu Akleh, the Palestinian-American journalist who was killed in the West Bank, where Israel initially denied it had anything to do with it, and then the truth came out later that, in fact, it had. Victor, Amra?
All right, Scott McLean, thank you very much. The IDF says it is preparing for, quote, the next stages of the war, including the expected ground offensive.
CNN's Brian Todd looks at the challenges of a likely Israeli ground incursion.
Meeting with soldiers in recent days, Israel's defense minister said, quote, Gaza will never return to what it was. An ominous signal of what's to come when Israel launches its expected ground invasion of Gaza.
One of the biggest forces in the world who's prepared for entering a contested environment like this is the IDF. But of course, there is no bloodless war. They'll take a lot of casualties, and I think they know that.
With more than 300,000 soldiers and reservists getting ready for combat, military analysts expect the Israelis to launch the invasion on multiple fronts.
This is Gaza City, and what we can expect is for the Israeli forces to most likely go in this way and this way. Probably the preponderance of force will be in this direction into Gaza City.
Inside Gaza, experts say this will be urban combat, possibly even tougher than what was seen in this footage from Israel's 2014 invasion of Gaza. Block to block, building to building, and vicious. The Israelis facing an enemy that knows every corner.
Major challenge is that the defenders had time to prepare, and that no matter what, you have to move forward and basically wait until the defender shoots you.
Look how narrow this alleyway is. Look how this soldier has to point up to see if there are any fighters above him in these areas. This is a perfect place for these fighters to be situated, for them to rain down fire.
Often caught in the crossfire, Palestinian civilians. Experts say Hamas does not shy away from using civilians as human shields in a combat environment.
Hamas wanted all those people to stay. It's blown up, put in barricades, it's destroyed transit areas and other things in an effort to fix them in place.
To ambush the Israelis, analysts say Hamas will use sophisticated IEDs, snipers hidden on upper floors of buildings. Another Hamas asset the Israelis will have to navigate, hundreds of miles of tunnels, known as the Gaza Metro.
With command controls and communication rooms and supply rooms and piers for launching rockets.
And there's the added complication of the hostages Hamas is holding. While 2 hostages have just been released, there are likely up to 200 more still inside Gaza. many of whom analysts say could be held in the tunnels.
Does that mean that they'll go into the tunnels, the Israelis, to try to get them, or is it just too dangerous?
It's very dangerous, but in certain circumstances, the Israelis will probably feel the need to go into these tunnels.
And the dangers don't end, even in the areas that the Israelis will have secured. Former CIA Director David Petraeus told CNN that in the areas they capture, the Israelis will then have to conduct counterinsurgency operations because Hamas and its allies will try to come back. Brian Todd, CNN, Washington.
With us now, former State Department Middle East negotiator Aaron David Miller. Aaron, good to see you. I want to start with some questions and the concerns, of course, of expansion of this war. Israel is now expanding evacuation orders near the Lebanese border. They say that Hezbollah has hit several Israeli targets, killing civilians and soldiers. New York Times reports that the Biden administration is urging Israel not to launch a large-scale attack against Hezbollah. Do you think that lasts, that restraint?
I mean, you know, it really depends, I think, both on Israeli and Hezbollah calculations. Hezbollah, I think, is going to feel increasing pressure to involve itself in this if, in fact, the Israelis move into Gaza with an intent to destroy Hamas. They can't let the Axis resistance only be comprised of Shia members, Iran and Hezbollah. They really do need that Sunni component. So Hamas is important to them. At the same time, you know, I think Hezbollah understands that if they get involved in a major conflict with Israel, which could involve the United States, we have almost 200 aircraft on those carrier strike groups in the Eastern Med, they're likely to suffer a significant defeat and the loss of much of their high trajectory arsenal. So right now, I think they're weighing the benefits versus the costs. Miscalculation, Victor, though, is clearly a possibility. In 2006, 2 Israelis were kidnapped by Hezbollah fighters, and it ended up in a 34-day war which shut down the northern half of the Middle East's most preeminent military power, the State of Israel. So a lot riding on that calculation up north.
Let's go to Cairo, and the President al-Sisi's Summit for Peace ended without any joint statement. Now, I don't know how high the expectations were going into this, but coming out of it, what was accomplished? What did we learn?
You know, I think it reveals the bind that key Arab states are in, certainly the ones who have full treaties of peace with Israel and even the Abraham Accord agreements. Because the more civilian casualties there are, the more Hamas propaganda infiltrates throughout the region, the greater pressure on these regimes by their respective publics. I'm not sure without Israel there, and obviously Hamas is not going to be able to be present, but those are the 2 main players in this drama right now. The U.S. obviously sent a relatively, I think it sent a charge to the conference, and it's in many respects an embarrassment to Washington. Because right now we're caught between the Arab states pushing for major humanitarian relief and a ceasefire, with the U.S. clearly wanting to facilitate humanitarian relief, but also determined to support the Israelis. So low expectations, and I think the summit produced exactly what I thought it would produce, which isn't much meaningful contribution to fixing this problem.
You wrote something on social media I'd like you to expound. You say that the U.S. is increasingly alone in a pro-Israel corner. Now, the administration has committed to staying in Israel's corner, but what do you mean by this increasingly alone? And are there implications for the U.S. Being in that corner, as you say, alone?
You know, if you look at the president's trip, which was designed to expand American engagement, not just with the Israelis, but with an Amman summit, in which the president was going to sit down with President Sisi of Egypt, King of Jordan, Mahmoud Abbas of the Palestinian Authority. That strike on the hospital, which now appears to be a consequence of a Palestine Islamic Jihad missile, ended up putting severe pressure on the Arab states and the Palestinians, and they canceled. And increasingly, I think, through no fault of the Biden administration, in my judgment, the administration is perceived to be fundamentally in support of Israel, with waning influence among key Arab states, with one exception, and that is Qatar. who seems to be playing a pretty important role in trying to negotiate either unilateral releases or some sort of negotiated settlement in order to free more hostages.
Yeah. On the question of negotiation, I introduced you as the former State Department Middle East negotiator. Do you think that Israel is in a negotiating mood at all? I mean, Netanyahu in 2011, as I've cited several times, did negotiate for the freeing of an Israeli soldier. It took 1,100 Palestinian prisoners to get him back. But after 2 Americans were freed, is there any likelihood that Netanyahu will want to do that to get the Israelis free?
I have to say that I think there's a lot more in train that we are not seeing in the hostage negotiation, which involves Israeli requirements trying to balance off against Hamas's cruel manipulation of the hostages with American pressure, I think, to give these negotiations with the Qataris and Hamas more time and space to succeed. I think one of the reasons that you have not seen a ground campaign yet, other than the fact that I think the Israeli politicians and the IDF are divided over the scope and capacity of the IDF to achieve its goals, is this notion of creating some more space to determine whether or not there can be more hostages released. I can't find any other explanation, frankly. This is day 16 of the war. The Israelis have 360,000 reservists mobilized, and they are under increasing pressure from their publics to try to address the savagery and the brutality of what occurred in that 24-hour period after October 7th. So I think, yes, I think the hostage issue is very much in play, and I think it's affecting Israeli calculations.
Aaron David Miller, good to have you. Thank you.
Coming up, more Republicans are entering the fight to be the next Speaker of the House. The deadline they face is today. More on the impasse coming up. Plus, the leader of a synagogue in Detroit was found stabbed to death outside her home. What police are saying and not saying about her death.
Why not feed your dog like the family member they truly are? With Ollie's freshly frozen, wholesome food. It has the nutrition your dog needs and the taste they actually want. With the nutrients and flavors our pups need to live longer, healthier lives. Their meals are more nutritious than anything I'm able to cook myself. So I subscribe to Ollie instead, saving me the hassle and the critique. Doesn't this cutie deserve food held to the highest standards? That's a yes. Save on your first box at Ollie.com.
We just signed the lease on our 3rd shop. My assistant went to CustomInk.com to get new uniforms with all the locations. He found great products, uploaded new art, and had boxes sent to all the shops. Custom Ink makes it so easy. Get started today at CustomInk.com.
Jack used to have gum problems. Now,
It's swishy time.
he uses TheraBreath Healthy Gums mouthwash to help fight gingivitis for 24 hours.
And it's not burning, so that heat's coming from you.
Try TheraBreath mouthwash.
It's a better mouthwash.
You founded your kayak company because you love the ocean, not spreadsheets. You need to hire.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Indeed Instant Match instantly delivers quality candidates matching your job description. Visit Indeed.com/hire.
No matter who you are, there are times it can be tough to be yourself when you have severe asthma. Triggers can pop up out of nowhere and lead to an asthma attack. But no matter what type of severe asthma you have, Tespire can help you be you. Tespire is an add-on treatment for people 12 and over that can help you have fewer attacks, breathe better, and relieve your asthma symptoms. So you can be you, whoever you are. Tespire is not a rescue medication. Don't take Tespire if you're allergic to it. Allergic reactions may occur and can be serious. Rash or eye allergy can happen. Don't stop your asthma treatments unless your doctor tells you to. Tell your doctor if you have a parasitic infection or your asthma worsens. Sore throat, joint, and back pain may occur. Avoid live vaccines. By helping control your asthma, Tespire can help you be you, no matter who you are. Ask your asthma specialist about Tespire today.
Tired of sciatic nerve pain radiating down your leg and lower back? Get relief, finally, with MagnaLife Leg and Back Pain Relief Cream. Fast acting, and yes, it really works. So get living.
Available at your local retailer.
Moderate to severe eczema still disrupts my skin. Despite treatment, it disrupts my skin with itch. It disrupts my skin with rash. But now, I can disrupt eczema with Rinvoq. Rinvoq is not a steroid, topical, or injection. It's one pill once a day. Many taking Rinvoq saw clear or almost clear skin, while some saw up to 100% clear skin. And they felt dramatic and fast itch relief, some as early as 2 days. That's Rinvoq Relief.
Rinvoq can lower your ability to fight infections, including TB, serious infections and blood clots, some fatal, cancers, including lymphoma and skin cancer, death, heart attack, stroke, and tears in the stomach or intestines occurred. People 50 and older with at least one heart disease risk factor have higher risks. Don't take if allergic to Rinvoq, as serious reactions can occur. Tell your doctor if you are or may become pregnant.
Disrupt the itch and rash of eczema. Talk to your doctor about Rinvoq.
Learn how AbbVie can help you save.
Discover the Emma Hybrid Comfort, designed with 7-zone sleep technology, so you wake up feeling refreshed and fully recharged, ready to face the day with a smile. Order Emma Hybrid Comfort to put your sleep issues to bed. Free delivery, 365-night trial, and 10-year warranty. Awaken your best at emma-sleep.com.
Today, members of Congress have until noon to officially declare their candidacy for the speakership. The House Republicans then expected to hold a forum for the contenders tomorrow. And in a Dear Colleague letter, Louisiana Congressman Mike Johnson said he initially stayed out of the speakership race, but now he is stepping forward. In addition to Johnson, here's a look at the other candidates vying to become the next House Speaker. Representative Kevin Hern, Representative Austin Scott, Representative Jack Berman, and Representative Tom Emmer, and Byron Donalds. Joining me now is Michael Schnell, a congressional reporter for The Hill. Hello, Michael, good to see you. So this long list, this growing list, I guess who at this point seems to be the front runner?
Yeah, Amaral, look, the key question these days is who isn't running for speaker rather than who is, because as you mentioned, that field is just growing and growing by the day. Right now, it appears that Tom Emmer is going to emerge as the front runner. He's currently the majority whip. He previously served in leadership for a few years now. He's going to be the highest ranking Republican to be vying for this seat now, and he would essentially be third in line. After McCarthy came Scalise, and then after Scalise, the highest Republican in the conference is Tom Emmer. He also received a very large boost last week, winning the endorsement from former Speaker Kevin McCarthy, so a really significant boost there. But we'll have to see if he's able to, get enough support from all different corners of the conference. As you mentioned, there were a number of other individuals running: Kevin Hern, Mike Johnson, Byron Donalds, just among the few of them. But the general consensus and assumption is that Tom Emmer is going to surge to the front of this race as the front runner, again, just because he is the highest ranking member currently running.
I do want to play some sound of some of the 2024 presidential candidates, the Republican candidates, criticizing the dysfunction that is happening in the House while they were on the campaign trail. Listen.
We should be embarrassed as a party, quite frankly, about what's going on in the House of Representatives. I mean, these guys and women look like a group of 11th graders trying to pick the junior class president rather than the Speaker of the House.
Even if they get a speaker, I just think that they're too divided to probably deliver significant results.
The House is too divided to get any work done, even with a speaker, right? So electing a speaker is half the battle, and once they do hopefully get a speaker, hopefully soon, the most difficult part seems to be getting to that, passing a spending bill, and of course dealing with the request from the Biden administration, funding the wars in Ukraine and Israel.
Yeah, and look, these dynamics are nothing new, right? If we look back to January, it was a small contingent of conservative Republicans who held up former Speaker Kevin McCarthy's bid for the gavel. Again, that was because the slim majority that House Republicans have in the conference, in the chamber. And then once McCarthy was able to clinch the gavel, we saw a number of these Republican versus Republican clashes within the conference, again, because of that really slim majority. It took Republicans a lot of time and effort to pass key bills whether that be the NDAA or that be other spending bills, single subject appropriations bills. And then, of course, we saw that clash over a Republican crafted continuing resolution. So, yeah, even if Republicans are able to eventually coalesce around a speaker, and I will note, there are a number of lawmakers who are publicly wondering if even anybody could get the subsequent votes needed on the House floor to clinch the gavel. Whoever that next speaker is likely going to have a lot of problems that we saw Kevin McCarthy trudge through when it comes to having to pass legislation because, again, that very slim majority. And you bring up two of them. Government funding is, creeping up. That deadline, November 17th, is inching closer and closer. That is going to be a heavy lift for the House, specifically the Republican conference. And then you mentioned President Biden has unveiled a supplemental request for Israel, Ukraine, the border, and so on. That also is going to be something that Republicans and the House in general is going to have to work towards once a speaker is elected.
All right, it seems like there's a lot of work ahead. We'll see if there is some kind of consensus on a potential speaker. Michael Schnell, great to see you. Thank you. And make sure to watch State of the Union later today. Republican Congressman Mike Turner sits down with our Jake Tapper to discuss his bid for House Speaker. That's at 9 a.m. Eastern, right here on CNN.
Still ahead, Detroit police say a trail of blood led them to the home of a synagogue leader who was found stabbed to death. What officials are saying about this case.
Tonight, how did Hamas orchestrate their massive attack on Israel? Sarah Seidner explores the history of this secretive and dangerous terror group and what comes next. The whole story with Anderson Cooper, tonight at 10 on CNN.
A new truck?
Yeah, Schwann's Home Delivery has a new name.
Yellow.
No, I think the H is silent.
Yeah.
You. What?
What?
Schwann's Home Delivery is now yellow. Order now at yellow.com.
Are you certain about the entertainment? You kind of nailed it. Are you for imprint certain?
Are you ready to rock?
I got this.
Certainty matters. For promotional products everyone will love delivered on time, visit 4imprint.com.
4imprint, for certain. I'm Sholay, and I lost 75 pounds with Golo. I went from a size 20 to a size 6. Before Golo, nothing seemed to work. I was exercising for over an hour every day. It was really discouraging. But Golo is so easy, the weight just falls off.
If you drive a personal car for work and don't keep track of your business miles, you're missing out on thousands of tax deductions or reimbursements. MileIQ is an app that can help. It automatically logs and calculates your business miles from your phone. Get started at mileiq.com for free today.
Choosing a treatment for your chronic migraine, 15 or more headache days a month, each lasting 4 hours or more, can be overwhelming. So ask your doctor about Botox. Botox prevents headaches in adults with chronic migraine before they even start. It's the #1 prescribed branded chronic migraine treatment. So far, more than 5 million Botox treatments have been given to over 850,000 chronic migraine patients.
Effects of Botox may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away, as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness can be signs of a life-threatening condition. Side effects may include allergic reactions, neck and injection site pain, fatigue, and headache. Don't receive Botox if there's a skin infection. Tell your doctor your medical history, muscle or nerve conditions and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects.
In a survey, 92% of current users said they wish they talked to their doctor and started Botox sooner. So ask your doctor if Botox is right for you. Learn how AbbVie could help you save on Botox.
My name's Alicia. My family's health is so important to me. That's why we choose a nurse practitioner. My husband Paul thought he had heartburn and made an appointment with our NP. Our NP really listened. She ordered tests and saved his life. Paul had open heart surgery for a critical blockage in his heart. NPs improve healthcare access, diagnose health issues, and prescribe medications. We can't thank our NP enough. My name is Alicia, and we choose NPs. To learn more, visit wechoosennps.org.
No one plans to accidentally fall overboard. But if you do, having your life jacket within reach might not be close enough. Want to see what happens next? Scan the QR code or come to enjoyboating.ca and you can decide what happens to our struggling boater. When within reach might not be close enough. A life jacket left on board won't keep you floating.
HomeGlow just cleaned my entire house for $19. No, seriously, $19. They showed up right on time and did my dishes, my laundry, they even cleaned my windows. You just pick a date, pick a cleaner, and enjoy a spotless house for $19. I love using Home Aglow, and I think you will too.
I can feel the winds of change.
I'm Warren Lieberman at the Pentagon, and this is CNN.
Closed captioning brought to you by Mesobook.com.
We only represent mesothelioma victims and their families. Call for a free book.
Call 800-282-4444 or go to Mesobook.com.
It's been more than 2 weeks since the war between Hamas and Israel began, and right now the most fired upon city in Israel is in chaos.
Hamas has fired more than 1,000 rockets into Ashkelon. CNN's Jeremy Diamond shows us how people there are dealing with this constant danger.
Go inside, go inside, go inside.
This is life in Ashkelon, the most fired upon city in Israel since Hamas launched its first rockets 12 days ago. Here, fear still grips some. Others carry on, ignoring the sirens' wails.
When we're outside, we're very careful. And when we're inside, God is protecting us. Every missile has an address. We don't need to be afraid.
In a city where 90% of businesses have closed, this supermarket is a lifeline.
There's a lot of businesses that are closed.
They're closed.
But the
The
supermarket,
market is working because people have to eat. They have to drink.
do you come like once a week or?
Once a week, enough, and I'm very afraid. If they send now, okay, I must lie on the road and to put my hands on my hand.
Getting to a bomb shelter isn't an option for everyone here, prompting the city to help evacuate thousands.
We still have around 35,000 people that actually live without shelters. So each and every rocket, it means a direct risk for them. So we are trying to find solution for them.
More than 1,200 rockets have targeted Ashkelon, and while most are intercepted by the Iron Dome, about 200 have made direct hits, displacing families from their homes, causing casualties, and shuttering businesses like this bakery.
When we got here, everything was in pieces. The door was out of place, there was a smell of gunpowder. A lot of nails and shrapnels were spread out. Everything was destroyed. We are starting to put things right.
In the basement of an unassuming building, Ashkelon's CEO takes us into the city's emergency operations center, where officials try and shorten response times, tracking incoming rockets headed for the city.
Rescue teams, police, ambulances, everything is going from here.
So before the rocket even lands,
We
you
know-
can see where it would land.
We have some estimation where it's going to land.
Until then, the first responders wait and pray. Jeremy Diamond, CNN, Ashkelon.
All right, here's what else we are following this morning. Right now, Detroit police are investigating the death of a synagogue leader.
Authorities found the body of Samantha Wall at her home Saturday morning. She had been stabbed multiple times. It's still unclear what led up to her killing, and authorities have not identified a suspect. The Detroit police chief is asking that everyone remain patient and not draw conclusions. CNN's Paula Sandoval has the story.
Emma and Victor, Detroit police are searching for a motive right now in the murder of the president of a local synagogue. The Isaac Agri Downtown Synagogue of Detroit confirmed the death of their board president, Samantha Wool. Investigators believe that she was stabbed to death at her home, but she was discovered Saturday morning on the sidewalk outside. At this stage in the investigation, homicide investigators can only say that she was stabbed multiple times. And insist that the motive in this killing is still unknown. They are calling on the community for any potential tips or information as they try to piece this case together. The FBI also says that they have been made aware of this murder and they stand ready to assist Detroit police as requested. Meanwhile, though, tributes are pouring in, many describing Wool as a kind member of the Detroit community who has been previously active in political campaigns. Michigan's own Attorney General, Dana Nessel, writing on social media that Wool used her faith and also her activism to improve her community. And then there's Moreno Taylor, who says that he previously worked alongside Wool on Nessel's campaign. On Saturday, he fought back tears as he told CNN about the friend that he lovingly called Sam.
I was always taught, in these positions that you always look out for your teammates, so, I always, again, Sarah is kind of a little sister, and I wanted to make sure that, we protected one another, whether we were out on doors, whether we were at events, trying to watch out for crazy stuff, because as we all know, last campaign cycle was extremely tense, and so we got to know each other very well, and it is honestly a devastating loss. As someone who has sisters, this is just kind of one of those things you can never really prepare for.
Another tribute from Detroit's mayor, Mike Duggan, over the weekend wrote that he recently celebrated, alongside Wool, the recent renovation of that synagogue, that Wool helped with that project. Duggan writing that the loss has left a huge hole in the Detroit community, a community left not just with a deep sense of grief, but also lingering questions about the circumstances of this murder. Amra, Victor.
All right, Polo, thank you for that. Police throughout Tennessee are searching for a man who shot and wounded 2 police officers Saturday outside Nashville. They say the suspect is the estranged son of Nashville's police chief. Authorities say 38-year-old John Drake Jr. shot 2 officers during a confrontation over a stolen vehicle. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation warns that he is armed and very dangerous. Drake's father says his son is a convicted felon and that they have not been part of one another's lives for a very long time.
Maryland authorities investigating the death of a judge. They say that they have found the suspect's car in a remote area, but they're still looking for the suspect, Pedro Argote. He is accused of fatally shooting Judge Andrew Wilkinson Thursday outside his home. Authorities believe he targeted Wilkinson because the judge ruled against him in a child custody case. Police say Argote has no prior criminal record. They consider him armed and dangerous. A $10,000 reward is being offered for information leading to his arrest. Up next, she could have stayed in a safe room when Hamas struck, but instead, a 22-year-old medic gave her life to try to save her neighbors. Her story is next.
Can we get real clear about life with psoriasis?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Is your treatment leaving you with uncontrolled symptoms? Like the cover-it-ups and brush-it-offs?
Enough with good enough.
Don't stay hiding or hurting. When your lotions and creams don't do enough to help treat the inflammation beneath the skin causing plaques and pain, it's time to get real about psoriasis so your dermatologist can help you get clear. Make the appointment and ask about Real Clear Skin.
Unnecessary action here.
Missing punches.
Unnecessary.
Check reverses.
Unnecessary.
Timesheet correction.
Unnecessary.
Unentered sick time. Unnecessary. Go! Go! When you can take this phone, you'll be ready. Make the unnecessary unnecessary. Let your employees do their own payroll.
I've always been prone to hair thinning.
I was getting older. I was under a lot of stress.
I started taking Nutrafol.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement.
I am back to me.
Start your hair growth journey at Nutrafol.com.
Why a 365-night trial? Because your own bed is the true test. Experience your Emma Hybrid Comfort risk-free. Awaken your best at emma-sleep.com.
That grimy film on your teeth,
Dr. G.
it's actually the buildup of plaque bacteria, which can cause cavities.
Most toothpaste quit working in minutes, but Crespro Health's antibacterial fluoride protects all day.
They stop cavities before they start.
Crest.
New projects means new project managers. You need to hire.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job, you immediately get your short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job criteria. Visit Indeed.com/hire and get started today.
Introducing Senecot Laxative Gummies.
I'm the easy way to relieve occasional constipation overnight.
Just take before bed, and the next morning,
It's showtime! And I've got mixed berry flavor.
Senecot Laxative Gummies.
Easy relief, the gummy way.
Custom Ink helps us motivate our students with custom gear. We love how Custom Ink takes care of everything we need so we can focus on the kids.
Custom Ink has hundreds of products to help you feel connected. Upload your logo or start your design today at customink.com.
With Circle, your water is deliciously flavored at the turn of a dial, with 0 sugar and 0 calories. And Circle has over 40 flavors, so your water can be as unique as you are. Try Circle, your water, your way, now with even more flavors. Available at Walmart or drinkcircle.com.
It's electric. It's gas.
Quite the paradox.
It really is both. The first ever Lexus RX plug-in hybrid.
Try killing bugs the worry-free way, not the other way. Zevo traps use light to attract and trap flying insects with no odor and no mess. They work continuously, so you don't have to. Zevo, people-friendly, bug-deadly.
These underwear are pee-proof and period-proof and sweat-proof. They're leak-proof underwear from NYX. Comfy and confident protection that feel just like normal. With so many styles and colors to choose from, switching is easy at NYX.com.
Sometimes Jonah wrestles with falling asleep, so he takes ZQL, the world's #1 sleep aid brand, for a better night's sleep. So now, he wakes up feeling like himself, the reigning family room middleweight champion. Better days start with ZQL nights.
Frustrated by skin tags? Dr. Scholl's has the breakthrough you've been waiting for. The first FDA-cleared at-home skin tag remover, clinically proven to remove skin tags safely in as little as 1 treatment. This is AG1, foundational nutrition to support whole body, brain, and gut health. Vitamins, minerals, pre- and probiotics, adaptogens, functional mushrooms, all that in this. Start at drinkag1.com.
Well, off top, I want to warn you that the story you're about to watch contains graphic and disturbing images. So it was October 7th when Hamas gunmen attacked a kibbutz near Israel's border with Gaza and killed the innocent civilians who lived there.
But not before a 22-year-old medic left the safety of her apartment and rushed toward danger, ultimately giving her life to help others. Amit Maan documented those final moments with photos and messages to her sisters. CNN's Andres Cooper has her story.
When Hamas gunmen arrived at the entrance of the Be'eri kibbutz around 7 a.m. Sunday morning, they waited for a car to arrive and open the gate. Then they executed the people inside. A 22-year-old medic, Amit Maan, was already in the community clinic. She'd run there when rocket sirens first sounded at 6:30 a.m. She could have stayed in her apartment's safe room, but wanted to help in case anyone was wounded. For the next 7 hours, Hamas gunmen roamed the grounds, burning homes, breaking into houses, hunting residents, slaughtering more than 120 men, women, and children.
She wrote us that there is terrorists in the kibbutz. They heard shooting, they heard the Arab talking. They were there, and she let us know that.
Haviva and Lior are 2 of Amit's sisters. They exchanged messages with her on WhatsApp all during the attack.
She says at 7:51, she says there are a lot of dead and injured here.
Yes.
Fucked up situation. I don't have any way to help.
She was so upset that she can't help them. All she ever wanted to do is to save life and help people.
At 9:13, Amit wrote, "The shooting is just continuing," and 14 minutes later sent them this photo. A man lies dead in the clinic hall. We blurred the image of his body. The floor is smeared with blood. At 11:02, Amit messages her sister about the gunmen. They went into houses and slaughtered people. 11:27, she writes, "There's no way to get out." Her sisters wanted to see Amit and asked her for a photo. You can see blood in the hallway behind her. Minutes later, Amit wrote, "Where is the army? I don't understand. It's been hours."
I told her it will be okay. I promise. I wrote that. I promise you. And they didn't keep my promise. I really believed she will be okay.
At 1:50 p.m., Amit messaged, "The terrorists, they were here, coming to us." They were coming inside the clinic.
She had with her a nurse and the doctor. The doctor got murdered as well.
And two members of the kibbutz, that they came with weapon to protect the clinic. Both of them also got murdered.
After they ran out of ammunition.
At 1:54, Amit wrote, "They are here. I love you." Then minutes later, her last text, "I don't think I'll get out of here. Please be strong if something happens to me."
And we, as you can imagine, we go crazy. And we write her, "Amit, please, Amit, what's going on?" And she doesn't answer. Then she sends us an audio recording. You hear a lot of shooting and screaming. She sends it to us.
This is the recording Amit sent them at 2:05 p.m. We want to warn you, it's disturbing.
She's screaming, "Please make it stop, they are here. Please make it stop.
Means please.
Please make it
Please,
stop."
please.
And she's calling the name of Shachar, is the member of the kibbutz that was murdered. Probably she saw him dying and then she understood they're
She
coming
is
for
next.
her. She's next, exactly. So in a desperate move, I call her on the phone and she answers and she's telling me they shot me in the legs and she's telling me they murdered everybody in the clinic. She's telling me they are on me.
On top of me.
Top of me. And I'm crying and I'm telling her, "Amit, what do you mean? What do you mean?" And she's telling me, "I don't think I'm going to make it," and that's it. The call goes down, and that was the last time we heard from her.
That was the last thing she said to you. "I don't think I'm going to make it."
Yes.
It was 2 days before they found out for sure Amit was dead. Her family buried her this week.
At least we got to say goodbye.
Yes.
So many other families.
We got to say goodbye, we got to bury her, you know. There are so many dead bodies that are missing. We try to find comfort in that things. And also that she died doing what she loved the most, which is save lives.
Show.
When I was younger, I saw my daddy cry.
The other thing Amit loved was singing. And before we left, Aviva and Lior wanted us to hear her voice. Not as it was in those final awful seconds of her life, but as it was when she was at peace.
My mama swore that she would never let herself forget. That was the day that I promised I'd never think of love if it does not exist.
Amit Maan was just 22 years old. Anderson Cooper, CNN, Tel Aviv.
Hold it!
Imagine a world with no drama.
I haven't sat Jody's card yet.
Ordering promotional products guaranteed to create memorable moments is an easy mission at 4imprint.com.
For imprint, for certain.
My name's Eric. I am 39 years old. I've started thinking about getting Botox Cosmetic for the last couple of years. I just see myself on video calls all day, and I really started noticing the lines. I'm still Eric, and I got Botox Cosmetic. I'm seeing a lot less prominent lines than I did before. The results have been subtle but noticeable. Botox Cosmetic is FDA approved to temporarily make frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines look better. The effects of Botox Cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Do not receive Botox Cosmetic if you have a skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow, eyelid drooping, and eyelid swelling. Tell your doctor about your medical history, muscle or nerve conditions, and medications including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. See for yourself at BotoxCosmetic.com.
MileIQ is the #1 automatic mileage tracking app. Our app automatically captures all your drives, so you can maximize business miles for tax deductions or reimbursement. And we've got solutions for individual drivers and teams alike. Try it for free at MileIQ.com.
This morning at 9, Jake is live with the latest on Israel's war with Hamas. Plus, the house is in chaos.
Former Congresswoman Liz Cheney sits down for her first media interview in over a year to discuss State of the Union this morning at 9.
At Granger, we're for the ones who pay attention to every little detail. The ones who fuss, tinker, and sweat the small stuff. Because you know the tiniest thing can make the biggest difference when it comes to keeping business moving. We get it. We're the same way, offering access to product experts to help you quickly and easily find what you need. So whatever your industry, you know you're always getting professional-grade products. Call, click Granger.com, or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
Joybird.com takes customizable furniture to a whole new level, so you can create furniture that complements your art, your green thumb, your fur baby, your style, your vision, your room, or just you. Mix and match your favorite colors, styles, and fabrics. Create your dream space with Joybird. Plus, get free design services at joybird.com.
Closed captioning brought to you by InVet Help. Call 1-800-710-0020.
Do you have an invention idea but don't know what to do next? Call InVet Help today. They can help you get started with your idea.
Call now. 800-710-0020.
I'm Erin Burnett in Tel Aviv, and this is CNN.
Hi, my name is Damian Clark. If you have both Medicare and Medicaid, I have some really encouraging news that you'll definitely want to hear. Depending on the plans available in your area, you may be eligible to get extra benefits with the Humana Medicare Advantage Dual Eligible Special Needs Plan. All these plans include a Healthy Options allowance, a monthly allowance to help pay for eligible groceries, utilities, rent, and over-the-counter items. The Healthy Options allowance is loaded onto a prepaid card each month, and whatever you don't spend carries over from each month. Other benefits on these plans include free rides to and from your medical appointments, and our large networks of doctors, hospitals, and pharmacies. So call the number on your screen now and ask about a Humana Medicare Advantage Dual Eligible Special Needs Plan. Humana, a more human way to healthcare.
CNN Heroes, brought to you by Humana, a more human way to healthcare.
This week's CNN Hero helps children whose families are living in shelters at the U.S.-Mexican border waiting to enter the U.S. legally.
Estefania Rebejon is a native of Colombia and was a migrant child herself. When she learned that some children are out of school for weeks or months or maybe years, she decided to take to the classroom to do something about it.
I just kept feeling like the weight of this crisis was on my shoulders. Schools are the way to be able to help them heal. So I thought, why don't we turn a bus into a mobile classroom? We currently have 3 mobile school buses, and we have also opened 4 school locations along the border. We partner with shelters to provide bilingual educational programs for migrant children and refugee children at the U.S.-Mexico border.
Yo soy de Colombia.
And a lot of them are always very surprised that I myself was a migrant child. I always want the kids to realize that being a migrant is not something they need to be ashamed of.
Gracias por compartir. Te quiero mucho. Okay?
I want our efforts to be something permanent. And that when it's all said and done, that we would be proud to look back and say that we were there when people needed us the most.
To see more of Estefania's work and to learn about her journey, go to CNNHeroes.com. Israeli Americans are coming together to raise money and collect humanitarian aid as the violence in the Mideast rages.
The head of, one nonprofit talked to our Camilla Bernal about their efforts to help.
Amra Victor, the focus here is to raise as much money as possible, to collect as many supplies as they possibly can, but also to try to help with mental health resources and try to fight misinformation. I talked to one organization, Bulletproof Israel, and this is specifically what they're trying to do. The CEO of the organization told me, look, I felt heartbroken, sad, and in a way helpless by seeing what was going on and being here in the U.S. So he said he essentially stopped working, did everything he could to provide these resources to the people of Israel. He told me that initially the need was for tactical gear, for things like bulletproof vests. But right now they're very focused on medical supplies and really just the basics, anything they can. They've been shipping things from LA, also from Miami and from New York, and they say they will continue to do this as long as there is that need. Here is the CEO and what he told me.
For me, it wouldn't make sense to go back, but knowing so many people in Israel and knowing what they're going through, what my goal is just to do everything that I can to help them out. Everything. It doesn't mean, there's no limit to what I would do. It doesn't matter. If they're there and they're fighting for us and they're trying to get my family out.
And Leon told me that 2 members of his extended family have been kidnapped, which is also part of the reason why he's trying to do as much as possible from the U.S. Now, I also reached out to a number of organizations that are trying to help Palestinians in Gaza, and I heard back from one organization, Ya Allah Indivisible, and they say it is extremely difficult for them to try to get any aid to that area. They're trying to raise as much money as possible because they know that getting supplies there is almost impossible for them, which is why they're focused on the funds, but they're also focused on trying to reach out to political leaders to get them to listen to their demands. Amra, Victor.
Camilla Bernal, thank you. We have the latest on the war in Israel just ahead, including the IDF's warning to people in Gaza ahead of an expected ground offensive.
The new CNN Prime Time is where the truth shines. The day's biggest stories. The night's most essential reporting. This is the new CNN Prime Time. Weeknights starting at 7 on CNN.
The all-new Ergo Smart Base from Tempur-Pedic automatically responds to snoring. So no more hiding under your pillow, because this system actually detects snoring, then adjusts to help reduce it. Experience the mattress ranked #1 in customer satisfaction by J.D. Power 4 years in a row.
Brenda used to worry about stained teeth. Now,
it's swishy time.
She uses TheraBreath Whitening Mouthwash to help remove and prevent stains.
It's non-burning and non-irritating, just like us.
Try TheraBreath Mouthwash.
It's a better mouthwash. ADT Self-Setup, featuring Google Nest products. Now you can easily install your system that's backed by ADT's 24/7 monitoring with no long-term contracts.
Have fun.
So you have a home with no worries. Brought to you by ADT.
I got the cabin for 3 days, it'll be sweet! What? I'm 12 hours short.
Have a fun weekend.
Was that necessary?
No, neither is a blown weekend. With Paycom, employees do their own payroll, so you can fix problems before they become problems. Get Paycom and make the unnecessary unnecessary. See you down the line.
No matter what type of severe asthma you have, Tespire can help you have fewer attacks and relieve your asthma symptoms. Tespire is an add-on treatment for people 12 and over. It is not a rescue medication. Don't take Tespire if you're allergic to it. Allergic reactions may occur and can be serious. Rash or eye allergy can happen. Don't stop your asthma treatments unless your doctor tells you to. Tell your doctor if you have a parasitic infection or your asthma worsens. Sore throat, joint, and back pain may occur. Avoid live vaccines. No matter who you are, ask your asthma specialist about Tespire today.
We just shipped our millionth monthly coffee subscription box, so we're sending custom thank you gifts to our team. Our custom ink rep is just as excited as we are and knows what great quality products to get. Celebrate your milestones with custom gear. Get started today at customink.com.
Dogs don't have the luxury of choosing their own diets. They place blind faith in us to choose what's best for them. So how do you know you're feeding your pup the freshest, highest quality food? Choose Ollie. Ollie's ingredient list is short and simple, so you know that you're giving your pups everything they need and nothing they don't. Stop guessing and stressing, and trust Ollie to deliver the quality nutrition your pup deserves. Get started now and save on your first box.
Are you still struggling with your bra? It's time for you to try Nix, makers of the world's comfiest wireless bras. For revolutionary support without underwires and sizes up to a G-cup. Find your new favorite bra today at Nix.com.
In Vernon, we vibe on vitality. And
we savor summer longer. Here we come alive on forest trails and play in colorful orchards that weave into rolling mountains. Raise your glass to the apples on trees and savor summer a little bit longer. Now's the time to travel to BC. Fall is on in Vernon.
HomeGlow just cleaned my entire house for $19. No, seriously, $19. They showed up right on time and did my dishes, my laundry, they even cleaned my windows. You just pick a date, pick a cleaner, and enjoy a spotless house for $19. I love using HomeGlow, and I think you will too.
I can feel the winds of change.
I'm Rahel Solomon in New York, and this is CNN.
Good morning to you, and welcome to CNN This Morning. It is Sunday, October 22nd. I'm Victor Blackwell.
And I'm Amaryl Walker. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. As the war in Israel enters its third week, thousands of Israeli troops in armored vehicles are at the Gaza border, ready to strike Hamas at any moment. On Saturday, the Israeli military said its bombardment of Hamas targets in Gaza will become even more relentless as they prepare for a ground incursion. Civilians in northern Gaza are being warned by Israel once again to evacuate south, or they might be considered, quote, a partner for the terrorist organization.
The U.S. is also stepping up its defenses in the region. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin said Saturday the U.S. military will deploy additional missile defense systems to the Middle East and place American troops on standby to deploy at a moment's notice. Now, in southern Gaza, Egypt's Red Crescent says 17 aid trucks carrying food and medicine are prepared to enter Gaza through the Rafah border crossing. Humanitarian workers inside Gaza are calling for more aid to be let through. They say the 20 trucks that crossed into Gaza Saturday are just not enough. CNN's Scott McLean joins us now from London. So we're hearing from the truck drivers on the Egyptian side of that border crossing. What are they saying?
Victor, yeah, my colleague on the Egyptian side has had a chance to speak to them, and look, they say that they are hopeful that they will be able to get in and be able to deliver the aid that they have in their cargo, but frankly, this is something that is well beyond their control. You have to have the Israelis and Hamas and the Egyptians all on the same page for anything to get through that border, and it has been pretty difficult up to this point. As you mentioned, 20 trucks got through yesterday, but the Palestinians say that, look, there are normally 500 trucks worth of supplies going in to Gaza every single day to supply the essentials to the 2 million plus people who actually live there. And at this point, we know that there are 17 trucks ready to go inside of Gaza, but we have seen no evidence of any movement across the border thus far. You also have this situation, the UN saying that some 60% of health facilities in Gaza have shut either because of damage or because they're running out of fuel, and we know that fuel for generators at hospitals is running low according to some of the organizations on the ground, and yet in the last shipment yesterday there was food, there was water, there were medical supplies, but fuel was not included, and there's no expectation that it will be included today based on what we know thus far either.
And tell us more about these flyers that were sent by the IDF warning civilians in is it the Sabra neighborhood of Gaza City to evacuate?
Yeah, so these flyers sent dropped on northern Gaza is something that the Israelis have been famous for, essentially warning people before they bomb something or telling people to evacuate, and they've been dropped several times now. The most recent one was yesterday, but the wording of this particular leaflet or flyer is raising a lot of eyebrows, and I'll read it to you. It says, urgent warning to the residents of Gaza Strip. Your presence in north of Wadi Gaza puts your life in danger. Everyone who chose to not evacuate from the north of the Strip to the south of Wadi Gaza might be considered as a part for the terrorist organization. Now, the IDF has confirmed that it dropped the flyers, but it says that it, quote, has no intention to consider those who have not evacuated from the area of fighting as a member of the terrorist group, saying that it does not target civilians. It also says that the translation of this that it spread online is imprecise, though it didn't clarify what it meant. That translation that I just read you there is CNN's translation not anything else. It's important to point out that, look, there are many people in the northern part of Gaza that has been told to evacuate because, for instance, perhaps they are in the hospital. Hospitals there have said, look, we don't have the means to safely evacuate some of these critically injured people. You also have civilians who are sheltering in those hospitals. And frankly, Victor and Amra, even if you were to be able to make your way south of this line that the Israelis have drawn, we are still seeing strikes south of that line on a daily basis. And the consequences, as we're seeing people show up at hospitals and morgues fill up, are absolutely, they're hard to describe. It's pretty terrifying.
One more for you. On CNN's analysis of the images and the videos that show the bombing of the hospital in northern Gaza, what did they find?
Yeah, so they went through, reviewed dozens of videos, live broadcasts from the time of the bombing. They also, went through the footage of our own photographer who went to the aftermath, spoke to weapons and explosives experts to try to get some kind of consensus on what the most likely scenario was. And the conclusion that they've drawn, though not with any certainty, is that the most likely scenario is that this was, in fact, a rocket launched from inside of Gaza that had broken up midair and then dropped on the hospital. One of the pieces of evidence that it looked at in particular was actually a live broadcast on Al Jazeera Arabic at the time, which showed something being fired from Gaza, exploding in the air, and then a subsequent explosion once it actually hits the ground. Experts also look at the crater on the site of the hospital complex there and say that, look, this was far too small to be from any kind of explosive that would have been dropped from an Israeli aircraft. But obviously they can't be certain unless they've been able to examine shrapnel or other things from the site and actually get on the site themselves. Even if this were true and the Israelis were not responsible, though, and again, no one can be certain at this point, the reality is that many in the Arab world have already made up their minds. The Jordanian foreign minister perhaps summed it up best when he said last week after this happened that, look, good luck trying to find anyone in this part of the world who believes the Israelis at this stage of the game.
Scott McLean, thank you so much. So the Israeli military has prepared an enormous fighting force poised on the border with Gaza. CNN's Jeremy Diamond has more on the pending Israeli operation.
Well, in case there was any question that Israel intends to go into Gaza Strip with troops, a ground invasion, those questions are being put to rest this evening by Israel's military chief of staff, the top general, saying, quote, "We will enter the Gaza Strip." What he is also telling his troops is their mission, and he says that it is to, quote, "destroy Hamas operatives and infrastructure." Now, these comments add to others by the defense minister, by the Israeli prime minister, all making clear that a ground invasion is certainly approaching. Now, on the ground, what we also see are the signs of a potentially imminent ground invasion as well. As we were driving along the Gaza Strip today, within about 8 kilometers or so of the Gaza Strip, what we found was not one, not two, but 4 different groupings of dozens of tanks, armored personnel carriers, as well as these D9 bulldozers, which the Israeli military uses ahead of ground troops to try and dig up and set off any potential IEDs, as well as any other obstacles that may be in the way of those forces. Now, put together, these 4 groupings that we saw in just about 1 square mile of an area represented hundreds of tanks and armored personnel carriers, as well as those bulldozers, and there were also infantry troops positioned along the way. Now, the only question appears to be exactly when the Israeli military will move forward with this invasion. Certainly, Hamas seems to continue to be dangling the possibility of additional hostages being released as one way to try and delay this ground invasion, but Israel's military continues to insist that it will move forward at a time and place of its choosing. And in line with that, Israeli military officials now say that they are increasing their strikes, that they are intensifying those strikes in order to try and minimize the risk to their own troops when they move in on the ground. But the question of what the impact will be on Gaza's civilians, who have already suffered so much in 2 weeks of bombardment by Israeli forces. More than 1,600 children are believed to have died, according to the Palestinian Ministry of Health. That question of civilian casualties still remains going forward. Israel's military has directed civilians to move out of the northern part of the Gaza Strip and to move south. And when I spoke with a Special Forces commander just the other day, this commander said that civilians have been directed out of those areas, and he said, quote, anyone who has chosen to stay there has chosen a side, indicating to his troops that any person who remains in that area could potentially be an enemy and could potentially be a target. Now, at the same time, that commander said that his troops will still try and avoid civilian casualties, but those comments and the broader specter of this war and how it has already impacted civilians inside of Gaza certainly raises the possibility of a very bloody time, bloody days, bloody weeks ahead. Jeremy Diamond, CNN, Ashkelon.
All right, with us now is retired Major General Dana Petard. He is the author of the book Hunting the Caliphate. Good morning to you, Major. Appreciate you, Major General. Appreciate joining us this morning. I think you say the IDF wants to achieve a tactical surprise against Hamas, and I'm just wondering how much of that surprise element is possible, knowing that Hamas has been expecting and preparing for this ground offensive from Israel.
Well, good morning, Amara and Victor. You know, achieving tactical surprise is certainly not going to be easy. Obviously, strategically, not only Hamas and Gaza, but the world knows that Israel is going to be attacking on the ground at some point. You know, operations have obviously already begun with the fighter bomber attacks, the artillery attacks, the bombardment of Gaza, which is the largest that we've seen. And Israel's trying to cut off the head of Hamas, get to the leaders, the command and control nodes. They're using psychological operations, intelligence operations, all sorts of things prior to the actual ground incursion. So Israelis are trying to pick the time of their choosing and the place. I mean, they'll attack from the north, from the east, and possibly from the sea. And that's how they'll attempt to achieve some level of tactical surprise.
You know, we've seen so many images of the civilians who have moved to southern Gaza as they have been warned to do so by the IDF, including these latest round of flyers that were sent into Gaza City. And of course, you know, the eyebrows have been raised regarding the wording that, you know, those who do not evacuate might be considered a partner for the terrorist organization. That was according to our translation here at CNN. But for those who have evacuated or intend to evacuate soon, I mean, is the South much safer?
Well, obviously the north is where the majority of at least initial fighting will take place. The south may in fact be safer, especially as Gazan citizens move through the Egyptian checkpoints. But something that you mentioned as far as the guidance, if that translation is accurate, as a former commander fighting ISIS, I don't think I like that. The idea that you will say that the civilians, if they remain there, would be considered combatants is not good, because what that can do is mean that citizens will be killed, and it'd be justified that, well, they stayed there, so they must have been combatants. That's not good guidance to our troops.
Let me ask you about the hostages. You know, of course, there was a sliver of hope when we saw the mother and daughter from Chicago who were released by Hamas. How will this ground invasion, number one, impact the state of being for the hostages? And do you expect the IDF troops to go underground into these tunnels to try to extract the hostages?
Well, obviously, the trying to rescue the hostages has caused the IDF to pause to an extent. They're trying to find where they are. So that's why the intelligence operations are so important. What Hamas has done is really manipulated the world by releasing the two American hostages, which is encouraging, and like to see that. The family from Illinois getting their loved ones back, but there's a couple hundred hostages still remaining. The fight is going to be a tough fight. I've been to Gaza. It is densely populated, teeming with people. The initial incursion, Israeli troops will be fighting in urban conditions, block by block, street by street, building by building. It'll be subterranean with nearly 300 miles of tunnels that Hamas has built over the last decade or so. It'll be on the ground with booby traps at every turn and ambushes, and also clearly in the high-rise buildings too. So it'll be three-dimensional on the ground as the Israelis fight through to destroy Hamas. But they still must destroy Hamas. And after Hamas, that's the biggest difficulty is, what does a post-Hamas Gaza look like?
And that is the question, isn't it? But as you said, the troops will be facing something quite risky, going street to street, building to building, and obviously rubble to rubble. And I'm sure that will present challenges as well. Major General Dana Pittard, appreciate you joining us. Thank you.
A Gaza crisis summit in Cairo, Egypt, ended on Saturday without an agreement because of differences, they say. Arab leaders had gathered to try to stop a growing escalation of the situation in Gaza and to try to protect its civilians. Now, in his opening remarks, Jordan's King Abdullah railed against Israel's bombing campaign. He called it a war crime.
All civilian lives matter. My friends, I am outraged and grieved by those acts of violence waged against innocent civilians in Gaza, in the West Bank, and Israel. The relentless bombing campaign underway in Gaza, as we speak, is cruel and unconscionable on every level. It is collective punishment of a besieged and helpless people. It is a flagrant violation of international humanitarian law. It is a war crime.
There were no Israeli or senior U.S. officials at that summit. Israel's foreign affairs minister said it was unfortunate that some of those attending had difficulty condemning terrorism. Still to come, President Biden is pressing Congress for a $105 billion package that includes aid for Israel and Ukraine. Coming up, the additional steps being taken by the White House to address the growing crisis. Plus, CNN goes inside one of the first kibbutzim to be attacked by Hamas more than 2 weeks ago. The message from those left to bury their loved ones there.
Your shipping manager left to find themselves, leaving you lost. You need to hire.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Indeed Instant Match instantly delivers quality candidates matching your job description. Visit Indeed.com/hire.
My heart is yours, dear. Just take my hand, and I promise, just take my hand, darling.
Dale used to hide his smile. Now, it's swishing time. He uses TheraBreath anti-cavity mouthwash for 24-hour cavity protection.
And it helps strengthen enamel. Not that you have any weaknesses.
Try TheraBreath mouthwash.
It's a better mouthwash.
The all-new Ergo Smart Base from Tempur-Pedic automatically responds to snoring. So no more hiding under your pillow, because this system actually detects snoring, then adjusts to help reduce it. Experience the mattress ranked #1 in customer satisfaction by J.D. Power 4 years in a row.
These underwear are pee-proof and period-proof and sweat-proof. They're leak-proof underwear from NYX. Comfy and confident protection that feel just like normal. With so many styles and colors to choose from, switching is easy at NYX.com.
I've always been prone to hair thinning.
I was getting older.
I was under a lot of stress.
I started taking Nutrafol.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement.
I am back to me.
Start your hair growth journey at Nutrafol.com.
Unnecessary action here.
Missing punches. Unnecessary. Check reversals. Unnecessary. Timesheet correction.
Unnecessary.
Unentered sick time. Unnecessary. Go! Go! When you can take this phone, you'll be ready. Make the unnecessary unnecessary. Let your employees do their own payroll.
At AG, we believe that nourishing your whole body is key to unlocking your vitality as you age, allowing you to thrive both physically and mentally. This is foundational nutrition made simple with AG1.
Choosing a treatment for your chronic migraine, 15 or more headache days a month, each lasting 4 hours or more, can be overwhelming. So ask your doctor about Botox. Botox prevents headaches in adults with chronic migraine before they even start. It's the #1 prescribed branded chronic migraine treatment. So far, more than 5 million Botox treatments have been given to over 850,000 chronic migraine patients.
Effects of Botox may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away, as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness can be signs of a life-threatening condition. Side effects may include allergic reactions, neck and injection site pain, fatigue, and headache. Don't receive Botox if there's a skin infection. Tell your doctor your medical history, muscle or nerve conditions and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects.
In a survey, 92% of current users said they wish they talked to their doctor and started Botox sooner. So ask your doctor if Botox is right for you. Learn how AbbVie could help you save on Botox.
With Circle, your water is deliciously flavored at the turn of a dial, with 0 sugar and 0 calories. And Circle has over 40 flavors, so your water can be as unique as you are. Try Circle, your water, your way. Now with even more flavors. Available at Walmart or drinkcircle.com.
Now, ADT professionally installs Google Nest products.
Cool. You're all set.
So your home is safe and smart.
We're gonna miss you.
You can check in on your home,
Arm the system, we should go.
manage your system from virtually anywhere, and get intelligent alerts like when a package has arrived. When the most trusted name in home security adds the intelligence of Google, you have a home with no worries. Brought to you by ADT.
Nearly 40 tons of medical aid and disaster relief supplies for Gaza left India for Egypt this morning. This is according to India's Ministry of External Affairs.
Despite the Rafah crossing opening for a short time yesterday to allow trucks with aid, 20 trucks to be exact, to pass through, it remains unclear if or when the border will reopen today. CNN's Priscilla Alvarez joining us now with how President Biden is responding to the humanitarian efforts. Priscilla.
Well, in a statement just yesterday, the president attributed this to days of diplomatic engagement at the highest level. Of course, these aid trucks passing through happened on the heels of President Biden's trip to Israel, as well as Secretary of State Antony Blinken's high-stakes shuttle diplomacy over the last several days. Now, in a statement, the president went on to note that this is a critical and urgent need, saying, quote, "I made it clear from the outset of this crisis in both my public statements and private conversations that humanitarian assistance was a critical and urgent need that had to get moving. And I express my deep personal appreciation for the leadership of President al-Sisi of Egypt, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel, and the United Nations to allow the resumption of this assistance." And of course, we should also mention that President Biden did speak with Egypt's president this week, where the two agreed for this crossing to be open. But of course, this remains a challenge. We have heard from aid organizations who have welcomed the aid trucks that have been able to pass into Gaza so far, but they note that this can only be the beginning. They still need so much more. So the White House still working on trying to facilitate that, working with their counterparts in the region, while also keeping a focus on getting Palestinian Americans out of Gaza, which they have still not been able to do. Amara, Victor.
Priscilla Alvarez for us, thanks so much. Joining us now is Nabal Farsak, spokesperson for the Palestine Red Crescent Society. Thank you for being with us. Let me start with the 17 trucks in Egypt waiting at the Rafah crossing, hoping to get into Gaza. Our reporters have spoken with those truck drivers that are optimistic. What can you tell us about what's on the trucks and the probability that they'll get across that border today?
Good evening, thanks for having me. So yes, as you highlighted, there's dozens of trucks who are still waiting at Rafah crossing border, waiting to get into Gaza. What we have received up to now is 20 trucks, hoping this will be a glimpse of hope to the entry of the rest of the trucks, because 20 trucks is only like a drop in the ocean of needs. We still need a lot in terms of food, even water. 2 million Palestinian civilians now are with no food or even water, besides electricity, as well as not only one hospital. All hospitals in Gaza are witnessing a collapsed status, having shortages in medicine, medical supplies, as well as running out of fuel. And by the way, fuel was not also delivered by the first shipment of the humanitarian aid, which included food, water, medical supply, and medicine, but not fuel.
Are you getting any indication as to when, if at all, there will be a sustained delivery of aid into Gaza?
So basically, all international organizations, along with countries, have been working due to all the last week long to get the aid in. Hopefully, now after this aid was already in, to continue working and advocating for the entry of a humanitarian aid. This should not be a one time. We need a humanitarian corridor to allow the entry of medical supplies and the humanitarian aid all the time in a safe way to guarantee to fulfill the needs of the humanitarian situation now in Gaza, because the humanitarian situation is literally catastrophic, whether in terms of extreme shortages of food and water, or even hospitals who are now running out of fuel, and without fuel, simply all hospitals can't operate, and cutting electricity means killing thousands of Palestinian civilians who were injured and now inside the hospitals. So all of the aid does not include fuel. That's why we still count on the international community to keep advocating for the entry of a humanitarian aid, not only from Rafah crossing border, but from all borders controlled from the Israelis, because Israel, as an occupying power, has a responsibility to ensure to provide the essential needs for civilians in Gaza, as well as hospitals who are implementing their healthcare worker services, and this should be not continued. Healthcare facilities and hospitals, along with civilians, should not pay the price and should be protected and respected according to the IHL.
That the Israelis' concern is that the fuel, if it gets in, will make it to Hamas. Let me ask you about the latest leaflets dropped by IDF. That and the Israelis contest this CNN translation, but it is that if Palestinians do not move south, they may be seen partners of the terrorists. What can you tell us about your organization's ability to provide aid to northern Gaza if the order from the IDF is to move south? We know that there are still many thousands of Palestinians who are in northern Gaza.
Yeah, let me clarify something. In the targeted area where Israel threatened to be evacuated, around 1,200,000 Palestinians who are live in the Gaza and the north. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians were still stuck in Gaza, in their homes, or in schools, or even hospitals. They couldn't find their way to evacuate themselves simply because Israel asking people to evacuate themselves under continuous bombardment. Besides, there is no transportation, complete destruction of the roads and infrastructure, so absolutely they have no way to go to. They don't have an option to choose either. It's the same case for hospitals, because Israel not only asking civilians to evacuate themselves under continuous bombardment, evacuation orders from Israeli occupation forces for around 24 hospitals in Gaza and the north to evacuate, which are absolutely impossible to implement. WHO has announced that evacuation orders for hospitals are impossible to implement, and they constitute a death penalty for patients. Our hospital is one of the hospitals that has received the evacuation order. We have 500 patients, some of them in the intensive care unit, and we will not be able and accept to risk the lives of our patients. Most of them are children.
Sure. I mean, an impossible situation for those hospitals as well. Nebel Farsak, thank you very much. And for more information about how you can help the humanitarian efforts in Israel and Gaza, go to cnn.com/impact or text relief to 707070 to donate. You will find a list of vetted organizations responding in the region. Again, that's cnn.com/impact.
Another week of chaos and confusion on Capitol Hill. Half a dozen House Republicans now looking to be Speaker, but does any one of them have the support they need to get that gavel? Coming up, a look at who's running so far.
The new CNN Prime Time is where the truth shines. The day's biggest stories. The night's most essential reporting. This is the new CNN Prime Time. Weeknights starting at 7 on CNN.
What you're seeing today is Dr. Renee Badreau completing a successful eye surgery and the dedicated hours of training in virtual reality that helped make it happen, allowing her to practice surgical techniques, to increase access to quality care through immersive environments. These are the ways surgeons with Fundamental VR and Orbis are using the metaverse today.
This is my coffee shop. And that's me in my custom shirt from Custom Ink. This week, we moved into a new, bigger space and brought on another employee. To celebrate, I ordered new branded gear for the whole team. Everything was so easy to make with Custom Ink's Design Lab. I just chose my products, added our logo, and placed my order. Our new gear really helps us look and feel like a team. Bring your own team together with custom gear. Get started today at customink.com.
I have moderate to severe Crohn's disease. Now there's Skyrizi. Feel significant symptom relief with Skyrizi, including less abdominal pain and fewer bowel movements at 4 weeks. Skyrizi is the first and only IL-23 inhibitor for Crohn's that can deliver both clinical remission and endoscopic improvement. The majority of people on Skyrizi achieve long-lasting remission at 1 year.
Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, had a vaccine, or plan to. Liver problems may occur in Crohn's disease.
Ask your gastroenterologist how you can take control of your Crohn's with Skyrizi. Learn how AbbVie could help you save.
This is spring semester at Fairfield Sassoon Unified. They switched to Google Tools for education because there's never been a reported ransomware attack on a Chromebook. Now they focus on learning, knowing that their data is secure.
On the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, we encourage Canadians to pause and remember all that veterans have sacrificed for us. Lest we forget.
HomeGlow just cleaned my entire house for $19. No, seriously, $19. They showed up right on time and did my dishes, my laundry, they even cleaned my windows. You just pick a date, pick a cleaner, and enjoy a spotless house for $19. I love using HomeGlow, and I think you will too.
I can feel the winds of change.
I'm MJ Lee at the White House, and this is CNN.
Closed captioning brought to you by Mesobook.com.
We only represent mesothelioma victims and their families. Call for a free book.
Call 800-282-4444 or go to Mesobook.com.
Republicans have about 4.5 hours now to officially declare whether they are going to be candidates for House Speaker. More GOP candidates are putting that name in the hat now that Jim Jordan's name is out of it. So far, we had Congressman Mike Johnson, Kevin Hern, Austin Scott, Jack Bergman, Tom Emmer, and Byron Donalds. CNN national political reporter Daniel Strauss is joining us now from Washington. Daniel, good morning to you. All right, so the majority whip, Tom Emmer, he has the endorsement from former Speaker McCarthy. Is he the assumed front runner here? And tell us about him. His name is not as recognizable as others.
No, and he's a former NRCC chair. But look, the pattern overall here is that none of these, there's no definitive front runner in this race to be speaker. And the feeling on Capitol Hill right now is that if you want to be speaker, if you've thought about it and you're in the Republican caucus, why not give it a try right now? I've never seen anything like this. There's no real clear outcome coming out of this, and there's no real clear end to this. We don't know what's going to happen or who could emerge in the end. There's no clear front runner or leader, unlike in the past where you saw with, say, Paul Ryan, that even though he said he wasn't interested, there were forces pushing him, and his ambition was also driving him. It's not the case here.
So the threshold to win the nomination is just a simple majority. And if you've got half a dozen candidates, and that could grow before the noon deadline, I guess, you could get the nomination with 45 votes. But I guess it makes more sense now to count the absolute no's. Are there enough absolute no's to an Emmer nomination that this could be an upset again if he gets to the floor for a full vote?
I mean, that's hard to say right now, simply because we saw with Jim Jordan's attempts to become Speaker that there are various factions within the Republican Party that are scheming out how to stagger their votes over multiple rounds. And that suggests to any observer that there's sort of a three-dimensional chess going on right now against any candidate who could emerge. And look, Emmer is not the consensus candidate, so it's really unclear at this moment.
Trump ally Byron Donalds, he received some votes in several rounds of the 15-round votes for McCarthy back in January, at least one in the last Jordan round. He's a confirmed candidate for this nomination. What is his viability here?
His viability is simply that he is considered part of the next generation of Republican leaders, and he's associated with Donald Trump in a real way. That's pretty appealing now. We're not in the era of the 90s or early aughts Republican Party where the technocrat and the establishment Republican is the clear consensus or strong candidate. It's the one who has support of the grassroots. And someone like Donalds fits very well in that category right now.
Worked for Jim Jordan, though. I mean, he had Trump's actual endorsement for Speaker and couldn't get it. For as much criticism as Kevin McCarthy received for the deal-making back in January to eventually win the gavel, it was ultimately one of those deals that led to his demise, giving the power to just one member of the conference to call for that vote to vacate the chair. Is that what's required in this iteration of the conference, that you've got to make these deals, considering what we saw with Scalise and Jordan and still watching this morning?
What's pretty clear is that the longer this process goes on, the more untenable some kind of motion to vacate deal is. And if you are a candidate for Speaker, what you want is to have the kind of leverage where you can say, I will only take this job if there is no situation like the one that McCarthy inevitably had to come to terms with to become Speaker. So right now, the question is, any candidate, is there a majority in this caucus that is willing to cede that power to just get their preferred Speaker into office?
Daniel Strauss, good to see you. Thank you. And of course, we will have more on the fight for Speaker coming up later this morning on State of the Union. That's at 9 a.m. Eastern, right here on CNN.
All right, still to come, a warning from Israel after Hezbollah launched attacks from Lebanon, the latest on the growing tensions at Israel's northern border. And tonight at 10 on CNN, how did Hamas pull off its surprise attack on Israel? The whole story explores the history of this secretive and dangerous terror group.
Whether you come to Key West for an in-depth history lesson, or you just want to skim the surface, Key West's story is richer, more colorful, more substantial, and quirkier than you ever imagined. Key West, close to perfect, far from normal.
I wish for the amazing new iPhone 15 Pro.
Sean! Do you mean this one? The one with titanium? It's so light, don't touch it. Maybe stealing wishes from the birthday boy is not your best plan. Switch to Verizon and get iPhone 15 Pro on them.
What?
Yep, and on an amazing network.
And I don't have to ruin any more birthday parties.
Yeah, that ship has sailed. Let's go get you that iPhone. Here we go. Come on now.
Get
iPhone 15 Pro, Apple TV 4K, and 6 months of Apple One. All 3 on us. Only on Verizon.
My name's Alicia. My family's health is so important to me. That's why we choose a nurse practitioner. My husband Paul thought he had heartburn and made an appointment with our NP. Our NP really listened. She ordered tests and saved his life. Paul had open heart surgery for a critical blockage in his heart. NPs improve healthcare access, diagnose health issues, and prescribe medications. We can't thank our NP enough. My name is Alicia, and we choose NPs. To learn more, visit wechoosnps.org.
I brought in Ensure Max Protein with 30 grams of protein.
Those who tried me felt more energy in just 2 weeks. Here, I'll take that.
Ensure Max Protein. 30 grams protein, 1 gram sugar, 25 vitamins and minerals, and nutrients for immune health.
Meet Milo. He's part border collie and part party animal. Meet the new Bissell Little Green Hydro Steam Pet. It's part steam-powered stain remover and part party animal patrol. Bissell, a new breed of clean.
Generalized myasthenia gravis made my life a lot harder. But the picture started changing when I started on Vyvgart.
Vyvgart is for adults with generalized myasthenia gravis who are anti-AChR antibody positive. In a clinical trial, Vyvgart significantly improved most participants' ability to do daily activities when added to their current GMG treatment. Most participants taking Vyvgart also had less muscle weakness.
And your Vyvgart treatment schedule is designed just for you.
In a clinical study, the most common side effects included urinary and respiratory tract infections and headache. Vyvgart may increase the risk of infection. Tell your doctor if you have a history of infections or symptoms of an infection. Vyvgart can cause allergic reactions. Available as Vyvgart for IV infusion, and now as Vyvgart Hytrulo for subcutaneous injection. Additional side effects for Vyvgart Hytrulo may include injection site reactions. Talk to your neurologist about Vyvgart.
New truck?
Yeah, Tron's Home Delivery has a new name.
Hello. Hi.
No, I think the H is silent.
Yeah. You. What?
What?
Schwann's Home Delivery is now yellow. Order now at yellow.com.
Lowering bad cholesterol can be hard, even with a statin. Diets and exercise add to the struggle. Today it's possible to go from struggle to cholesterol success with Leqvio. With a statin, Leqvio is proven to lower bad cholesterol by 50%. And keep it low with 2 doses a year. Common side effects were injection site reaction, joint pain, and chest cold. Ask your doctor about twice-yearly Leqvio. Lower, longer Leqvio.
How does Klein Inspector get among the most big verdicts and settlements of any law firm in the country? Because Klein Inspector is an award-winning team with 5 doctor lawyers, the most of any firm in the United States. And that's why the New York Times calls Klein Inspector a powerhouse law firm. So if a defective product, motor vehicle accident, or medical malpractice caused a catastrophic injury, call Klein Inspector.
It's a settlement near Gaza that was hit when Hamas launched its surprise attack on Israel. Journalists were not able to go inside the kibbutz in southern Israel for security reasons until now.
Signs of the attack are still all around, so we have to warn you, some of this video is really tough to watch. CNN's Anderson Cooper has a story from Nir Oz.
Nir Oz was one of the first kibbutzim attacked on October 7th by Hamas gunmen. Security cameras recorded some of them entering armed with automatic weapons and RPGs. When we visited Nir Oz this week, the carnage was clear. No family, no home here was untouched by terror. People's possessions are strewn all around, left behind by men looted and killed for more than 7 hours. The silence now sounds sickening. A breeze blows through broken windows, flies buzz in the debris. The residents who survived are gone. Only some cats have returned. Every home, it seems, has been defiled. Family photos remain on the fridge. The people who lived here hid in their safe room. Lucky for them, the door held strong.
You can tell gunmen tried to pry this door open. This handle has nearly been pulled off from tugging it. They weren't able, the lock held. It looks like they tried to pry open the door as well. You can fit your hand through here. They could just maybe look in, but they couldn't actually break through this door.
Around back, we checked the window of the safe room. Inside, the bed and sheets are soaked with blood. One member of the family who hid here was wounded, but he and they survived. But according to the IDF, about a quarter of the 400 people who lived in Nir Oz are dead or missing.
In another house in this kibbutz, gunmen broke in and murdered a woman named Bracha Levinson. They not only killed her, they got access to her Facebook account, and they live streamed an image of her lying in a pool of blood on the ground so that her friends and family could see.
This is Bracha Levinson. She was 74 years old. Her neighbors, Adina and David Moshe, were also in their 70s. They'd lived in Nir Oz for more than 50 years. We found their home completely torched. Dishes were still in the dishwasher. They hid in their safe room when the gunman came. Her granddaughter, Anat, says Adina messaged her family they were okay.
My grandmother was a very, very strong. She didn't want us to be panicked. Later on,
worried about you in that moment.
yeah, she's this kind of woman. She always takes care of us.
But inside the safe room, there was reason to panic. A pool of dry blood, evidence of what happened. David Moshe was shot and killed here, holding onto the door handle to prevent the gunman from getting in.
He was a hero, and he was shot. So there are 3 gunshots on the door that succeeded to break through the door.
Their attackers dragged Adina Moshe out through the safe room window. She later appeared in this video posted online, sandwiched between gunmen on a motorbike in Gaza. Some of the missing have been found. The bodies of 80-year-old Carmela Dan and her 13-year-old granddaughter Noya were identified this week. Her former son-in-law, Ofer Calderon, is still missing, as are 2 of his children, Sahar and Erez. This video shows Erez being dragged away by gunmen, one of whom appears to have blood on his hand. We geolocated where the video was shot.
This is the last known location of Erez Calderon. He was 12 years old. He was kidnapped by Hamas gunmen, and he was videotaped as they were dragging him away in this direction. This is the fence to the kibbutz. And Gaza is only about a mile and a half away. You can see an explosion that's just taken place in Gaza off in the distance. So the gunman didn't have far to take him in order to get him back into Gaza.
There's video of Shiri Babas being kidnapped as well, clutching her 2 children, Ariel and Kafar. Her husband is missing too. We talked to her cousin last week.
I want my family back. I want my family back. I'm trying to be strong and stoic and speak clearly, but I'm devastated.
All of the families of the Oz are devastated. David Moshe was buried there this week. His granddaughter Anat wanted us to see a video that was played at his funeral. It's from a celebration at the kibbutz earlier this year. That's David singing. He's then joined by other members of the kibbutz.
He's singing the first sentence. This is what the song means. Time will fix all that breaks. That's the message, and you're allowed to be afraid, and you're allowed to be sad. But tomorrow we can rebuild and recover.
This morning, as the Israel-Hamas war ramps up, retired General David Petraeus joins Fareed to discuss what are the lessons Israel should learn from America's response to 9/11. Fareed Zakaria, GPS, this morning at 10.
This is your season to smile, to gather together and discover the moments that matter, to jump into the fun and join in the celebration. To help get you ready, your Aspen Dental team is celebrating 25 years of affordable care with an epic anniversary savings event. Right now, new patients without insurance get a free full exam and x-rays. Plus, everyone can get 20% off their treatment plan. But hurry, because while the season won't last, the memories you make together will. Aspen Dental. Book today.
Okay, everyone, our mission is to provide complete balanced nutrition for strength and energy.
Ensure with 27 vitamins and minerals, nutrients for immune health, and Ensure Complete with 30 grams of protein.
Type 2 diabetes?
Discover the Ozempic Trizone.
Ozempic!
I got the power of 3. I lowered my A1C, CD risk, and lost some weight.
In studies, the majority of people reached an A1C under 7 and maintained it.
I'm under 7.
Ozempic lowers the risk of major cardiovascular events such as stroke, heart attack, or death in adults also with known heart disease.
I'm lowering my risk.
Adults lost up to 14 pounds.
I lost some weight.
Ozempic isn't for people with type 1 diabetes. Don't share needles or pens or reuse needles. Don't take Ozempic if you or your family ever had medullary thyroid cancer or have multiple endocrine neoplasia syndrome type 2 or if allergic to it. Stop Ozempic and get medical help right away if you get a lump or swelling in your neck, severe stomach pain, or an allergic reaction. Serious side effects may include pancreatitis. Gallbladder problems may occur. Tell your provider about vision problems or changes. Taking Ozempic with a sulfonylurea or insulin may increase low blood sugar risk. Side effects like nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea may lead to dehydration, which may worsen kidney problems. Living with type 2 diabetes?
Ask about the power of 3 with Ozempic.
Hi, I'm Stacy and I've lost 60 pounds on Golo. I decided to try Golo when I had an international flight coming up, and I realized I couldn't fly being the size that I was. My sister-in-law tried Golo and had lost 50 pounds. So I thought I'd give Golo a try. I didn't expect the results I got on Golo. I was hopeful, but I did not expect it to be like this. Golo just makes sense. This plan works.
Change your life at Golo.com. That's GOLO.com.
This is American infrastructure, a prime target for cyber attacks. But the same AI-powered security that protects all of Google also defends these services for everyone who lives here. Hold it!
Imagine a world with no drama.
I haven't signed Jody's card yet.
At 4imprint, finding the promotional products you need to create a memorable moment is an easy mission. Our expert team will take care of every detail to make your success a certainty. Take the drama out of ordering promotional products at 4imprint.com.
4imprint, for certain. After Homoglow cleaned our place for $19, we fired our old housekeeper. Homoglow tackled everything, from our kitchen to our bathroom, all our laundry. You just pick a date, pick a cleaner, and enjoy a spotless house for $19.
When Lila was ready to sell her ring, she sent it to Worthy, where they took care of everything and auctioned it on her terms. Then, Worthy sent Lila her money. You're worthy of more. Get started at Worthy.com.
I'm Melanie Zanona in Washington, and this is CNN.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Audiobook Network. Authors tell your story. Produce an audiobook with us.
Want to earn more profits and find a new audience for your published book? Produce an audiobook. We handle narration, production, and digital distribution.
800-753-8559.
Turning to the threat on Israel's northern border with Lebanon, the IDF says the Iran-backed militant group Hezbollah is playing a very dangerous game and could drag Lebanon into a war.
IDF spokesperson says that Hezbollah has been attacking Israeli positions near the Lebanese border and is escalating the situation, and that there could have been, or rather have been, both civilian and military casualties. CNN's Matthew Chance is in northern Israel. Matthew, what's the situation there?
Yeah, well, hey Victor, it's very tense, and it has been for the past week or so since there's been an Israeli troop build-up, not just in the south of Israel as preparations continue to possibly enter the Gaza Strip, but also up here in the north of the country, where there is a great deal of concern, and that concern is mounting, that Hezbollah, the Iranian-backed militia in Lebanon, may decide to intervene in that conflict and really start striking in earnest positions here in northern Israel. Already, the Israeli military say that Hezbollah attacks over the course of the past week or so have been stepping up. They've been escalating in terms of drone attacks, in terms of anti-tank missiles being fired at the fence, in terms of infiltrations of Hezbollah fighters, Palestinian militant fighters as well, in areas of southern Lebanon controlled by Hezbollah, coming across, sort of striking at Israeli positions. There have been injuries already, both Israeli military casualties and Israeli civilians as well. Also, I mean, I think this is key, the entire area of northern Israel now, certain sort of vast swathes of it, have been evacuated by Israeli civilians to allow for the military to impose a security zone up here, and that's meant that hundreds of thousands of Israelis, if you take into account how many people have left their homes in the south of Israel as well because of the Hamas attacks there, have now been displaced. And so that's obviously a matter of urgent concern for the Israeli authorities. What the Israeli military are saying now is that Hezbollah, that militia in southern Lebanon, is playing a very, quote, dangerous game by continuing these attacks, and it's basically, what they're saying is dragging Lebanon into a war that it's going to lose, because Israel has made no secret about the fact that it is ready for a massive Hezbollah strike into northern Israel, and will strike back in kind. And so that's a message they're very much wanting to put out there, is it, Victor?
Matthew Chance for us in northern Israel. Thank you, Matthew.
Up next, we're going to have more on the trucks loaded with aid now entering Gaza.
Tonight, how did Hamas orchestrate their massive attack on Israel? Sarah Seidner explores the history of this secretive and dangerous terror group and what comes next. The whole story with Anderson Cooper, tonight at 10 on CNN.
This is spring semester at Fairfield Sassoon Unified. They switched to Google Tools for education because there's never been a reported ransomware attack on a Chromebook. Now they're focused on learning, knowing that their data is secure.
How does Klein Inspector get among the most big verdicts and settlements of any law firm in the country? Because Klein Inspector is an award-winning team with 5 doctor lawyers, the most of any firm in the United States. And that's why the New York Times calls Klein Inspector a powerhouse law firm. So if a defective product, motor vehicle accident, or medical malpractice caused a catastrophic injury, call Klein Inspector.
Meet Milo. He's part border collie and part party animal. Meet the new Bissell Little Green Hydro Steam Pet. It's part steam-powered stain remover and part party animal patrol. Bissell, a new breed of clean.
With Ollie, you know you're giving your pup everything they need in a dog food, and nothing they don't. Our ingredient list is short, and our benefits list is long. Get started now and save on your first box.
At Grainger, we're for the ones who pay attention to every little detail. The ones who fuss, tinker, and sweat the small stuff. Because you know the tiniest thing can make the biggest difference when it comes to keeping business moving. We get it. We're the same way, offering access to product experts to help you quickly and easily find what you need. So whatever your industry, you know you're always getting professional-grade products. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Choosing a treatment for your chronic migraine, 15 or more headache days a month, each lasting 4 hours or more, can be overwhelming. So ask your doctor about Botox. Botox prevents headaches in adults with chronic migraine before they even start. It's the #1 prescribed branded chronic migraine treatment. So far, more than 5 million Botox treatments have been given to over 850,000 chronic migraine patients.
Effects of Botox may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away, as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness can be signs of a life-threatening condition. Side effects may include allergic reactions, neck and injection site pain, fatigue, and headache. Don't receive Botox if there's a skin infection. Tell your doctor your medical history, muscle or nerve conditions and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects.
In a survey, 92% of current users said they wish they talked to their doctor and started Botox sooner. So ask your doctor if Botox is right for you. Learn how AbbVie could help you save on Botox.
This is my coffee shop. We just moved into a bigger space, brought on another employee, and ordered new branded gear for the team. It was so easy. I just chose my products, added our logo, and placed my order. Bring your own team together with custom gear. Get started today at customink.com.
Discover the fine art of relaxation and rejuvenation. The perfect place to watch the world go by. Big waves, big smiles. There's always something to do. Just 10 minutes from downtown Victoria. Come for a day, a week, or forever. Come and play in Oak Bay, Victoria's seaside destination.
I wish I had you.
Oh, yeah. Love your necklace. It's Gloriana. Who served that? Cheers. Gloriana. Jewelry you'll love. Visit us in-store or online.
I'm Pete Muntine at Reagan National Airport. This is CNN.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to CNN This Morning. It is Sunday, October 22nd. I'm Amara Walker.
I'm Victor Blackwell. Thank you for joining us this morning. We continue our coverage now of the war in Israel. Thousands of Israeli troops and hundreds of armored vehicles are at the Gaza border ready to strike Hamas. On Saturday, the Israeli military said its airstrikes on Hamas targets in Gaza will become even more relentless as they prepare for the ground incursion. Today, the Palestinian Ministry of Health in Gaza says the number of killed there is up to 4,651. 266 of those died in the last 24 hours. A hospital in Gaza's Central District says it's overwhelmed with bodies following overnight airstrikes. I want to warn you that some of the images you're about to see are disturbing. These are videos obtained by CNN. They show dozens of bodies wrapped in shrouds on the ground surrounding the hospital because of the hospital's morgue. It's already at capacity. Families can be seen grieving, trying to identify the bodies.
As fighting increases at Israel's northern border with Lebanon, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said the U.S. military is taking steps to increase its readiness in the region, including deploying additional missile defense systems to the Middle East and placing additional American troops on standby to deploy at a moment's notice. A few minutes ago, we learned another aid truck crossed into Gaza from Egypt over the Rafah border crossing. Earlier, Egypt's Red Crescent said 17 aid trucks carrying food and medicine are ready to enter. Aid workers inside Gaza are calling for more aid to be allowed through, saying the trucks that have crossed through so far are just not enough. CNN's Scott McLean joining us now from London. Scott, what more do we know about these trucks moving through? Will more be allowed in?
Yeah, so the latest word that we have from my colleague on the ground is that there are trucks moving through that border area. Obviously, there's multiple checks along there, and it's not clear how many trucks have gotten through and where they are in the process of getting checked. But as you pointed out, all told, the Egyptian Red Crescent, says that there should be 17 trucks crossing the Rafah border crossing today into Gaza with the essentials: food, medical supplies, and water. What they will not have on board, we are told, is fuel, which is so desperately needed. The UN, for instance, says that its operations will run out of fuel in just 3 days unless they get more. We also know that hospitals are running desperately as low, trying to conserve fuel for their generators as much as they can. Some have shut already because they simply don't have the fuel to run their generators, and this could add to the already mounting death toll. You mentioned it. The Palestinians say more than 250 people died in just the last 24 hours, including more than 100 children. And when it comes to northern Gaza as well, the Palestinian Red Crescent says that, look, telling hospitals in that area to evacuate is essentially amounting to the death penalty, they say, because they simply do not have the ability to safely move critically injured patients. And Victor, you showed that video earlier of the bodies wrapped in those white shrouds. That's from a hospital in Deir al-Balah. This is in central Gaza. This is in the area where the Israelis have told people to go to outside of the northern part. And so that is evidence that, look, even southern Gaza is not safe at this stage. And the person that shot that, my colleague on the ground, says that they have actually seen, in one case, the bodies of 3 children with their names written on their calves in markers, and they say that it has become more and more common to see children's names written on their bodies by their parents, just in case something happens to them or to their parents. Gus?
Such a morbid detail that tells us what's happening there. Scott, you mentioned northern Gaza, those hospitals unable to evacuate. There is a new warning from the Israeli military, though, that that northern Gaza section, 1.2 million Palestinians should evacuate. What's the latest?
Yeah, so this was another round of leaflets or flyers that had been dropped from the air on the northern part of Gaza, the top one-third, almost one-half of the territory where most of the population in Gaza actually lives or had been living at least. And the wording of these particular leaflets is raising some eyebrows. I'll read you part of it. It says, urgent warning to the residents of Gaza Strip. Your presence in north of Wadi Gaza puts your life in danger. Everyone who chose to not evacuate from the north of the Strip to the south of Wadi Gaza might be considered as a partner for the terrorist organization. Now, the IDF did respond to that. They confirmed that they dropped the flyers, but it insists that there was no intention to consider those who have not evacuated from the area of fighting as a member of a terrorist group. They insist that they do not target civilians. They also say that in the translation that has been circulating widely on the internet that they say it's imprecise. They didn't clarify which part. The translation that I read you, by the way, that is CNN's translation of things. And as I said, look, there are hospitals in that northern part of Gaza that say that they cannot and will not evacuate. Ordinary people, many of them uninjured, are also taking shelter in those hospitals because they figure that at this stage it is still probably the safest area for them to be in.
And speaking of hospitals and bombings, we know last week the Al Ali Hospital in Gaza City was bombed. It killed a few hundred people, civilians. We are learning more about what caused the explosion there. Tell us more.
Yeah, so a team of my colleagues here went through dozens of videos, live broadcasts, footage shot by our stringer on the ground there in the aftermath, spoke to experts in explosives and weapons, and tried to piece together what happened and what the most likely scenario actually is. And they've drawn the same conclusion that's been drawn by U.S. intelligence, and that is that this was a rocket that originated from Gaza, broke up in the sky, partly detonated, and then the rest of it came coming down to Earth and then detonated on the ground there. One of the pieces of evidence that they looked at, again, they can't be 100% certain about any of this without actually getting access to the site, but they looked at live video broadcast by Al Jazeera Arabic, which showed a flash in the sky, then another flash on the ground at the time of that hospital bombing. They also looked at the crater size left behind. Experts say that the crater would have been much larger if it was dropped from an Israeli aircraft. But again, nobody can be certain without getting full access to the site, examining the shrapnel, etc. It is also worth noting that, look, even if this were to be 100% the case, that we know this, and no one does know for certain, the reality is that many across the Arab world have already made up their minds. The Jordanian foreign minister perhaps summed it up best when he said, look, good luck finding anyone in this part of the world that believes the Israelis. They have been known to deny things at first and then later change their stories or admit to them. And he points to the death of Shireen Abu Akleh, the Palestinian-American journalist who was killed in the West Bank. Initially, the Israelis said that had nothing to do with it. Only later did we learn that they actually had. Victor, Amra?
Yeah, so much distrust on both sides. Scott McLean, thank you. The Israeli military has prepared an enormous fighting force poised on the border with Gaza. CNN's Jeremy Diamond has more on the pending Israeli ground operation.
Well, in case there was any question that Israel intends to go into Gaza Strip with troops, a ground invasion, those questions are being put to rest this evening by Israel's military chief of staff, the top general, saying, quote, we will enter the Gaza Strip. What he is also telling his troops is their mission, and he says that it is to, quote, destroy Hamas operatives and infrastructure. Now, these comments add to others by the defense minister, by the Israeli prime minister, all making clear that a ground invasion is certainly approaching. Now, on the ground, what we also see are the signs of a potentially imminent ground invasion as well. As we were driving along the Gaza Strip today, within about 8 kilometers or so of the Gaza Strip, what we found was not one, not two, but 4 different groupings of dozens of tanks, armored personnel carriers, as well as these D-9 bulldozers, which the Israeli military uses ahead of ground troops to try and dig up and set off any potential IEDs, as well as any other obstacles that may be in the way of those forces. Now, put together, these four groupings that we saw in just about 1 square mile of an area represented hundreds of tanks and armored personnel carriers, as well as those bulldozers, and there were also infantry troops positioned along the way. Now, the only question appears to be exactly when the Israeli military will move forward with this invasion. Certainly, Hamas seems to continue to be dangling the possibility of additional hostages being released as one way to try and delay this ground invasion, but Israel's military continues to insist that it will move forward at a time and place of its choosing. And in line with that, Israeli military officials now say that they are increasing their strikes, that they are intensifying.
A song by Paul Beckman, Paul the Rainbow Song. Also the new and first leader of humankind and the free world. Created October 22nd, 2023. This song is going to be called When Everything Goes Dark, the Lights Go Out, and all is black. I am still here. When everything goes out, when everything goes out, when everything goes black, when everything goes black, I am still here. When everything goes out, when everything goes black, when everything goes out, when everything goes black, when everything goes out, everything goes black, when everything goes out, and everything goes black, I am still here. when everything goes out, when the lights go off, when everything goes black, when everything's turned off, when everything goes out, when everything goes black, when the lights go off, I've got your back. I'm still here.